Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Awthentik and The Beard. The best television show not on TV. We got a couple of games to talk about today, man. The regular season has come to an end so fast, man. It's crazy how fast this regular season just flew by on us. It feels like it was just August just a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about how to get ready for this season. But the Eagles end up beating the New York Giants in Philadelphia. The Giants are now headed to take on the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, and the Commanders close out their season in impressive fashion by upsetting the Dallas Cowboys, man. I know a lot of the Dallas Cowboys fam in our chat are going to be upset about that, and I know the Beard's got a vibe kind of like
Spike don't care.
Probably pretty happy here. I know he's got a lot of flowers for you guys today. So without further ado, let me bring in the best co-host in the country, the strong side to the left side, my brother from another mother, and your brother as well, Mr. Beard himself. I see him smiling already. Look at him.
I mean, listen. I tried to tell y'all, you know, but it was a very interesting game. I'm super, there's people who will complain about going from the 10th pick to the 14th pick. But you know me, you play to win the game. You know, I'm not one to lose a game for draft picks, and to beat Dallas, who played their starters, and we basically played, I'd say about 75% of our starters. It meant a lot. I thought it's always good to finish a season like that, moving into the offseason. Obviously, there's going to be some changes moving forward with the Washington Commanders. But, right now, it's Victory Monday. It's Tuesday now, but it's Victory Monday sort of vibes.
You can smoke some victory pack from here all the way until the 2023 season.
Exactly. But before I go any further, I have to make it a point. So I am here right now doing this show, but meanwhile, it is Josie and I's little cousin's birthday. He's having a birthday party right now, and they're watching us right now. So I have to give a big shout out to my guy, Israel. Happy birthday. He is 10 years old today. So happy
5th grade on him one time. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Israel. I wish I could be there, buddy. We got our own little handshake, so I'm going to give him the virtual handshake right now.
Okay.
Boom, 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 boom. Big shout out to my guy, Israel.
Those are some jazz hands. All right, that's what's up.
Big shout out. Happy birthday, little guy. I wish I could be there. Hope you are enjoying your birthday. Everybody in the chat, make sure you guys say happy birthday to Israel. He is 10 years old today. Hope you guys have some fun. Josie, make sure you please bring me home a piece of cake. I love you very much. Thank you.
Just don't have that crazy artificial frosting. Get rid of that stuff.
No, I'm not a big frosting
guy. The real layer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure. So, it's going to be an interesting week, obviously, here at Awthentik and The Beard as we move forward to the playoffs. Congratulations once again to all of the Giants fans, Eagles fans, and Cowboys fans. As happy as I am because we, beat Dallas, we still are out of the playoffs. So, but I would be disrespectful not only to reality, but to a majority of the fan base here at Awthentik and The Beard without giving congratulations to those teams that deserve it for making the playoffs. So shout out to all the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles fans that join us here at Awthentik and The Beard.
Started with the Cowboys.
Hey, listen, the flowers, you saw the GIF.
Yeah, I saw the GIF.
You get the roses, right? But then they just poof, they catch on fire and they start to disappear.
Like you open the bouquet and then they just start burning on you. Or that's like those birthday candles where you keep trying to blow them out and they just keep lighting themselves back on fire.
Those are so evil for little kids. Like, why would you do that
terrible
to a kid?
Yo, speaking of evil for little kids, the families that are like pranking or were pranking their children on Christmas by having a Grinch come in and steal all the gifts from underneath the tree, and like you literally see these kids looking all traumatized, crying. Yeah, that's doing a disservice to your children.
TikTok done messed up humans.
Yeah, people are definitely thirsty for the views, thirsty for the likes, man. But it kind of reminds me. TikTok is like, there's some good, there's some bad, because without stuff like TikTok, you don't get that cack video from homie in Chicago, stuff like that. So there are some gems out there. I got to admit that. But yeah, I do think that's not a good gesture towards the children one time, man. But shout out to your nephew, I'll say, you know,
cousin. He's a cousin. He's a cousin. Yeah,
for his 10th birthday, man. I remember when I was 10.
birthday.
I was 10 in August, man. Now I'm about to be 40 here coming up in July.
Oh, trust
Time
me,
flies.
he be looking like he's 35 when he'll be walking around the house with the wife beater and the gold chain. You
And the
remember
gold, okay.
You remember how Fats used to always have a gold chain. You know how
yeah.
the Dominicans got the gold chain when they had a little kid. You know what I'm
Big
saying?
facts.
So
Haitians too. Most foreigners, you got a good little thin rope chain for sure. I remember having a couple chains back in the day for sure, man. But big shout out to everybody, man, in the chat, man. We appreciate y'all all pulling up. Shout out to everybody who tuned into the Giant Overreaction on Monday as well too. It's kind of it was awkward show, I'll say, just because, we had pretty much 99.9% of our starters out of that game. It was interesting, man, and like coming up with graphics and stats and stuff, I was just like, I don't know, I can't make a graphic for Davis Webb, but shout out to Davis Webb nonetheless, man. He played a decent game.
Somebody's getting some flowers, all right, in that Giants game. I can't wait to give those flowers out. Shout out to that guy.
In the last Giants game?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So before we start the floral ceremony here at Awthentik and The Beard, we want to give a big thank you to everybody who is watching us right now on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and of course, right here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and tell a friend about Awthentik and The Beard. Let's give some quick shout outs to the folks in the building before we jump into the games. Big shout out to Coach Taylor. J-Mo is in the building. What's going on, Jameson? Good to see you, my guy. La Mamba, it is never too early. Trust me, there's always going to be somebody who's first in the building at Awthentik and The Beard.
Yeah, you get to wrap up with some folks in the chat one time. I did see La Mamba James was here probably about like a good 6:30 or something like that. So shout out to La Mamba James one time in the building. And La Mamba was real active. Missed out on the Giant Overreaction on Monday, but was in the comments section, man, almost like he was literally on the show. He was responding to the live chat live, gave all his impressions on the overreactions, if he had the over or the under. Him and Steven Arce, both of them were doing that. So big shout out to y'all for the engagement, man, in the comments section. We appreciate that.
Definitely appreciate that. That is all love. Big shout out to our guy, the Beige Boy, one of our resident Commanders fans. Says, what up, y'all? Last game of the Snyder era. I like how people have been doing that. Looks like Sam may be legit. Scott Turner, peace. Good luck to the Giants. HTTC. Shout out to Beige Boy.
HTTG, right? Yeah, hail to the Giants. I like that. I'm a big fan of that. Shout out Beige Boy one time.
Our guys in the building.
Michael Knight in the building. What's poppin', fam? Hope all is well.
Big shout out to Gregory, one of our resident Dallas Cowboys fans who has come to face the music. I appreciate that. Says, what's up, Awthentik and The Beard? DC for life. I think that means Dallas Cowboys, but we're going to go with DC for life. Back in the house by popular demand. Big shout out to our guy, Lax044 for the $4.99 super chat. Says, what's up, everyone? Giants are in the playoffs. It is so nice to be back. Beard, congrats on the OC change. We are definitely going to touch on that at some point tonight. Big shout out to our guy, Edward Squires, in the building. Everybody's favorite GQ name on YouTube. Who else we got in the mix today? Giants Mafia, ready for the playoffs. Must be nice.
I'm definitely ready for the playoffs. I'm definitely ready for that.
It's going to be fun.
It must be nice. I know that.
Big shout out to Prime Time 816. Says, what up, fellas? Salute. Get back season to the Beard. Double salute for the Commanders stomping those Cowboys. Salute indeed, my guy. Oh, it's a wonderful feeling. Wonderful feeling. How many games? What were the Dallas Cowboys have been, 12-1 against the NFC East the last 2 years?
10-1. 10-1.
10-1?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. Big shout out to our guy checking in all the way from Australia. Lucas is in the mix. Big shout out, Lucas. We appreciate you as always for joining us.
Guy.
And our eventually one day down the road correspondent. Big shout out to Marjorie, always dropping the Marge bombs in the chat. We appreciate you for joining us. Sean G is in the mix. Great to see you, Sean G, as always. And my guy, Kai. Your Dallas Cowboys pennant is in the mail on the way. Kai 001 was one of our winners last week. We had 3 winners last Thursday. Trivia, all got prizes. So he says, what's up, Awthentik and The Beard family? Can y'all do me a favor and just skip over that Commanders and Cowboys recap? Thank you in
Good luck
advance.
with the way that Giants game went. Good luck.
Big shout out to Valentino also checking us out in the mix.
What up, fam? What up?
I love to see my Commanders people in the chat. Kevin the PRF says, so, guys looking for a new co-host next year? My buddy Scott needs a job.
Big shout
I
out.
don't think he's welcomed here at Awthentik and The Beard, unfortunately. There's a lot of people that say he's going to get a job, though. We're going to have to wait and see. Big shout out to Fabian is in the mix as well. And, hey, Stephen Ars. Says Beard going to be howling all stream. And listen, my guy right here, he was asking for a body. He said the streets need a body.
Definitely got a body.
And our guy Paulie said Turner is sleeping with the fishes. Hail to the W. Big shout out to Monique, one of our other resident Cowboys fans, who also came to face the music today. We appreciate it very much so. I appreciate all the birthday shout outs in the chat too to my little cousin. Sergeant Mayhem is in the building. James Jones is in the building.
Shout out
Listen,
Sergeant Mayhem, what time in the building, yo?
y'all came out tonight. We 50 plus deep early. And big shout out to Stephen Lilly for the 5-pound super chat. Says, hi, you guys. Let's go playoffs. Let's go Giants. Getting at least 2 extra games. We're going to send them Vikings packing.
Confident.
And congrats, Beardy boy, on Cow Pats.
Cow Pats.
Cow Pats.
He had to look close. My eyes is terrible. I know my eyes is horrible.
Oh, man, you guys are fantastic. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. We appreciate you guys. It's going to be a fun show as we put a wrap on the regular season before we start talking playoffs.
This is us sending you off. You know, this is us sending you off.
It's interesting. I was taking a shower, and for those of you that don't know, most creative mind people, we do most of our thinking in the shower, in the car, and when we can't sleep. Okay, like when you're like trying to go to sleep, but your mind, you're always trying to create, right? So I was in the shower, I was like, man, like I want to be on the Giants side, right? But and I think the Giants, are going to do well. I'm going to save most of that for the upcoming shows.
You're in a dilemma here.
But at the same time, it's like I feel a responsibility to play devil's advocate and present a case for the Vikings too on how the Vikings can win the game. So I don't know how I'm going to approach it.
You've been calling the Vikings frauds all year.
I have, which is what makes it even more difficult. So, it's going to be an interesting next couple of days as we get closer and closer.
I think
to
what
the
it really is, and I'm willing to say this, when you guys made the playoffs, there was like a dilemma for me that was like, do I root for them to represent the NFC East and go on to win this game? Or in my heart of hearts, do I really hope that they lose and not try to make it to at least the championship game so I can feel better about my Giants sitting at home not being at the playoffs? I think that's the real pickle you're in right there.
No, listen. I had the Giants. I almost hit it.
So you picking the Cowboys to beat the Bucks, huh?
Absolutely not.
Right.
But we'll have to wait and see. But that's because I'm looking at this subjectively, obviously. I'm looking at it from a football educated
anytime the
here.
Beard says obviously after, it's not. It doesn't mean obviously. It means you know why. I'm the Dallas Cowboys. I got the rivalry. I can't get them too many flowers.
Yeah, there comes a point where, the flowers stop coming out of the ground. And that's not on me. That's on Mother Nature, And eventually it gets cold in the playoffs.
Cowboys better plant them seeds, man.
They better figure something out soon.
Kind of ugly right now.
It's crazy, though. I picked every single team in the NFC East to have a winning record before this season started. And
the only team that didn't have a winning record
was Washington, but they did not have a losing record. They had a purely 500 season, which is nearly impossible. It's probably will only happen on a few times over the course of many years to come, because obviously we have a 17-game season now. So to finish 8-1 is probably going to be an interesting record for the history books. But
if you look back, in history, when the games weren't 16 games and it was 13 games, there was a few times where a lot of teams ended up the year with a tie on their record. I think there was up to at least 6 teams one time. I think this was like in the 70s when they had 6 teams that had a tie. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that, man. Maybe they should adjust the overtime rules a little bit too, because sometimes it just feels a little short-lived. Like one team gets one possession, the other team gets another possession, and now you're looking at like 5 minutes left on the clock, 4 minutes left on the clock for somebody to score. And we've seen it this year. I think how many teams got ties this year? 4 teams, I want to say.
4 teams. I think there was 2 games that ended in ties.
Yeah, the Colts and the Texans, and then us, obviously, which y'all.
Oh, shout out to the Texans. They played to win the game.
Yeah, and then they fired their coach. Oh God,
which
terrible.
Back-to-back years, one and done coaches. Come on, Texans.
You can't keep doing that. You definitely can't keep doing that. But yeah, shout out to Lovie Smith for dying on the shield, man. Going out there and trying to win a football game with the number 1 pick on the line. And now the Chicago Bears got the number 1 pick, right?
Yep. Chicago Bears will be they are officially on the clock.
I can't wait till the offseason in a way, but that'll be after the Giants win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you guys got a long way before you start thinking about offseason. I've already seen about 7,500 horrible mock drafts on my Twitter timeline.
Oh man, yeah, it's not.
Listen,
I don't think I'm ever gonna do that. I'm not into the mock drafts. Like,
I don't. For me, it's more interesting to do a first round mock draft than it is to do my team. Yeah, than it is to do like my team mock draft. Because eventually when you start getting into those round 3 and round 4 sort of situations, unless you watch college football, you're throwing darts at that point.
And even if you do, man, I get to 4th round in a fantasy draft and start trying to be like, man, what am I going to do now? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even if you do watch college ball, man, get into the 4th round. There's so many teams and so many players that you could choose from, man. It's like a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson was not on my radar until we got there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's a player. True. He's definitely a player.
And I think that's another interesting way to do it, as opposed to, if you go down like the players by positions, it makes it a lot more intriguing, because it's like, okay, I'm going to spend this week on wide receivers, and I'm going to kind of do my digging on like the top 50 wide receivers that are eligible in the draft, because there's a lot of guys. I mean, 7 rounds. How many wide receivers do you think are drafted in every draft?
I would say somewhere around 35 to 40.
So maybe 50 is a little extreme.
Because 50, man, you start, man. I'm all about the guys that are potential 1st-round picks and 2nd-round picks, really. Yeah, maybe some guys on the cusp of being a 3rd-round pick as well, too. But, maybe top 15 wide receivers. Something like that. You're not going to get no wide receivers in the top 10 for the most part in most drafts. You might get one guy, here or there. The Justin Jefferson draft had a bunch of them, I remember, in the 1st round.
The last couple of drafts have had a lot of good wide receivers taken.
Yeah.
It's the running back position that has really taken a hit. Last year, there was 0 running backs taken in the 1st round.
Yeah, and that's when people were saying Saquon Barkley's a bust. And I think maybe that has to do with running backs like Kajana Carter, those guys that were getting drafted in the top 5 and whatnot, and ended up being
Kajana Carter might be a little much for some of our fan base. They probably have no idea who Kajana Carter is. Rashawn Salam?
Our fan base, man, you got
that's right. You told me from that giant overreaction.
Yeah, man. But you ready to get to this first game, man, and dish out some flowers here, possibly?
I mean, listen. The bouquets are on deck for the Commanders. Let's get right into business.
All right, let's get to it, man. All right, man. The Cowboys end up falling at 12-5 to the Washington Commanders, who end their season 8-8-1. The Washington Commanders defeated the Dallas Cowboys 26-6 at FedEx Field on Sunday. The Commanders avoid their 6th straight season under 500 by upsetting the Cowboys. Ron Rivera, this is getting a little dicey here, does not have a winning season in 3 seasons with the Washington football team, Redskins, Commanders, whatever you want to call them. Washington has not had a winning record since 2015. I know we're going to get to the flowers. I got to pull up with the duds real quick one time. But y'all do not have a winning record since 2015. The Cowboys will remain at the 5 seed now after that loss. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to jump into the number 1 seed or hold on to the number 1 seed. I'll let you talk about third down. I know that's one of your specialties, so I'm going to skip over those stats right there because they were very interesting in this game. Dak has now thrown an interception in 7 straight games. The Cowboys are 5-2 in those games, which is kind of interesting. Maybe if you just throw 1 interception, it's not all that bad, but 5-2 in games where you've thrown 7 straight interceptions down 7 games, it's pretty tough. He ends the year now coming back from injury with 15 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Tied for the league lead in interceptions for Dak Prescott with, the other quarterback?
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills, my man. Let me give you one of those right there. The Beard. Both of them have 15 interceptions on the year. You know who's second? He's a good quarterback. I'll give you that.
Matthew Stafford?
Josh Allen, second in the NFL right now with 14 interceptions. Dak missed 5 games and leads the league, or is tied for the league lead in interception. He's the first player to ever miss 5 games and lead the league in interceptions. And Giants fans know all about that. We had Eli Manning lead the league in interceptions a couple times there. The Cowboys offense had a total of 182 yards. That's the 3rd best performance by a Washington defense against Dallas in their history of playing against the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys were 1 of 1 in the red zone. They only had 1 trip down to the red zone. Commanders, I'll let you talk about that. We'll save that. I know the Beard likes to talk about red zone and third down a lot. Cowboys averaged just 3 yards per pass. Washington averaged 7.2 yards per pass. Big difference. Cowboys averaged 2.4 yards per carry. So as far as plays per in this game, the Cowboys averaged 2.8 yards per play. This is probably the worst game we've seen from the Dallas Cowboys offense. They did not have a running back go over 19 yards or over 8 rush attempts on the day. The Cowboys now in their last 4 games, they're averaging 3.2 yards per carry. And Washington ran the ball 41 times. I know the Beard didn't have a roadmap, but if he did have one, that would have definitely been on the roadmap. They ran it 41 times for 151 yards. They averaged 3.7 yards per carry. Just want to go over a couple key moments in this game because this game was kind of boring. I was kind of watching this one, kind of in my peripheral while I was playing some Xbox, along with the Giants game, so no disrespect. But after the Cowboys' opening drive, punter Brian Anger mishandled the snap, and you knew from right then, it was like, if y'all can't get over this first mistake and y'all make another mistake, the Washington Commanders are definitely going to be in this game. Washington scored in 2 plays after the mishandled snap, and the punter couldn't get the ball off. He was tackled, so y'all had a red zone opportunity to start the game right off the bat. Kevontae Turpin, he muffed a fair catch on another punt in that game. Washington ended up missing a field goal, so no points off of that one. But Sam Howell also, I thought this was a pivotal point in the game, too. He was intercepted in the red zone with Washington up 13-0. Y'all know I always talk about those windows, those opportunities to put teams away. That was the first opportunity for me where I noticed Sam Howell had a chance to put the Dallas Cowboys away. You go up by 3 scores, it's going to be tough sledding for the Dallas Cowboys. Washington up 13-0, and this was right after the Sam Howell interception. Dak Prescott, he throws a pick 6 to Kendall Fuller. That's Kendall Fuller's 2nd pick 6 on the season. And another key moment I thought was when Dak was stopped on the quarterback sneak on 4th down with the score 23-6. I know it was a long shot for them to come back in that game, but still, you cannot have those kind of mistakes. This reminds me of the Carson Wentz mistake last week when you were down 2 scores. You got about 5 minutes left. You're down to your last shot there, and you throw an interception with Dak. It was a quarterback sneak. Commanders led this game 13-6 at the half. So with all that said, the Dallas Cowboys did have a shot in the second half to win this game. This right here really, really, really surprised me from both teams. And you, right when we pulled up today and you were backstage with me, you were saying how ugly this game was. The second half started off with 6 punts, 3 punts by each team. The Dallas Cowboys really struggled in the second half and in the first half offensively. The Commanders added a Sam Howell rushing touchdown and 2 field goals from Joey Sly to win this game 26-6. The Cowboys' second half possessions, before I toss this over to you with a couple of questions here, the Cowboys' second half possessions, 6 punts, bro, 1 turnover on downs. There's no way you're going to win games like that. To me, this was the worst game of the season for the Dallas Cowboys, and it came in a terrible spot when they actually had a shot to try to get the number 1 seed, and things just completely fell apart. The San Francisco 49ers end up winning, and the Minnesota Vikings ended up winning, and the Philadelphia Eagles ended up winning. Sorry about that. And it ended up, really killing the chances for the Cowboys to get the number 1 seed or to win the NFC East. But nonetheless, man, you can't win a game with 6 punts in the second half and 1 turnover on downs. And then they got the ball back late in that game with just like under a minute left or whatever it was. They had 3 plays and the game was over. But you go over the, we'll call it the virtual roadmap, and what you thought about this game. And then I got a couple of questions for you that'll date back to what we were talking about in the preview on Thursday.
So it's interesting that you mentioned the beginning of that second half, because I was tired, and that game was not helping. And so you mentioned the 6 punts. Do you know how many total yards between the two teams were during those 6 punts to start the
Let me take
second
a guess
half?
because I don't know. I'm gonna say 24 yards.
16 yards.
God, I feel like 16 was the first number that came to my mind too, and I just dodged it. It's like, nah, it ain't
I
that.
mean, it was there was definitely some ugly moments in this game as far as just the teams go. And you saved the third down numbers for me.
Facts.
Dallas was 4 for 18.
It's trash.
18 third
22%,
downs.
man. That's trash. I don't say trash that much. That was trash.
But listen, Washington wasn't much better. They were 3 of 14 on third downs.
Yeah.
And the defense, the biggest thing is in this game, obviously, is Washington was not playing all of their starters. There were still starters in the game, obviously, but Dallas was playing all of their starters. This was a bad look for the Dallas Cowboys, 100%. There was a lot of people out there, not just me that thought that Washington could win, but there was a lot of people out there that thought Dallas was going to come in here and literally beat the brakes off of Washington.
Most of us here and most of us in the chat, myself included, I thought this was going to be at least a 2-score win for the Dallas Cowboys.
It was, and I like how you said that, that opening punt, like you kind of knew right then and there, right?
Yep.
And then Sam Howell throws a touchdown on his first NFL pass. I mean, that's got to feel good. You know what I'm saying?
More trivia real quick?
Yeah, I want some more trivia.
Who's the last quarterback to throw in their debut? Their first pass was a touchdown. It was in the past 3 years. I'll give you some hints.
AFC or NFC?
AFC. I like how you just reached for one more hint. I like that.
Joe Burrow.
Nope. Mike White.
Oh. Wait. But he wasn't a rookie, though, when he did it.
He wasn't a rookie. He wasn't a rookie, but it was his first game starting.
Yeah.
And I looked into those 300-yard stats about Kirk Cousins and RG3 debuts. And, yeah, RG3 arguably has the best debut by a quarterback, a rookie quarterback ever. Both of them did throw for over 300 yards in their debut.
And that was, I want to say that was the Saints game, too, when that was like the RG3 moment when he was on the ground and he was sitting on the ground and he had his two hands
DC
up.
was on fire back
They
then.
were lit. They were lit. I have an RG3 autographed jersey right here. I'm about ready to get framed.
Man,
and put it on my
I
wall.
said this on one of the Giant Overreactions. Them RG3 jerseys were like $4 at Foreman Mills, bro. I'm like, man, pick one of those up, man. RG3 was decent for a quick little moment there, man.
RG3 provided us the only spark. I don't care what nobody says. The only spark outside of maybe that Monday night Dallas game, outside of that game, the RG3 spark was there's nothing else in the Daniel Snyder
legit.
era.
Yeah,
that was
legit,
it
for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So
Alfred Morris, that was a good time,
team.
man.
Yeah, it was a good team. It was a good time. But it was fantastic. Obviously, to RTDB 41 carries, 151 yards. 3.7 yards per carry. That 3.7 per carry is exactly where you want to be when you're running the ball. I mean, obviously,
look, I had this conversation with Mike Swan like recently, right? He's like, he was talking about Najee Harris. Najee Harris was averaging 3.9 yards per carry, and I was like, it's not that bad when you're like the guy that they rely on, and it's not like he's a speed back. He's not like a Christian McCaffrey or something like that. He's a power runner for the most part, So at 3.9, you can be effective. It is towards the bottom of the league. 3.7, you get down to like 3.5, you're down at the bottom of the league as far as yards per carry. But it all depends on the style of running back that you are. Like if I see Brian Robinson, going for 3.7 yards per carry every game, I'll take that all day. And in this game, it was Jared Patterson. Shout out to my homegirl Amber, who's shooting a documentary for DC artists. It's called, what's the name of that joint? It's called Something from Awesome. I can't remember the first word, but she's a cinematographer from the DC area. Jared Patterson's her cousin. So I look for any moment to say that, and he had 17 carries for 78 yards in this game. He was really the main bell cow running back for y'all on the day. He had a good day. Yeah,
I mean, listen, at 3.7, if you run the ball on first and second down, you're at 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. That's ideal.
It's ideal.
I mean, obviously, you know what I'm saying? So for me, it was good to see that. It's just weird that it took 18 weeks for them really to kind of, be in that 40-plus range when that's kind of what we thought we were going to be doing the entire season.
Is this the first time they breached 40?
I think so. I'm not 100%
Philly.
sure.
I want to say Philly. Y'all
Yeah,
ran
Philly,
it 40 times.
Philly. We ran it. I
That'd
think
be my
41
guess.
times also. Yeah. So like, I mean, we were around that 35 range on multiple occasions. You know, especially during the winning streak. But it was just, you know, the inconsistency, obviously, in the play calling. And then in this particular game, when I don't want to say you're evaluating Sam Howell, but in a sense, you kind of are evaluating.
I like
Sam Howell.
I like how that changed, because Thursday the tone was very different. It was just like, you know, you just want to give him some experience.
Yeah,
Doesn't it feel good to see him go out there and play pretty decent?
It does. And I thought everything I expected out of Sam Howell, I saw. You know what I'm saying? Like,
don't even go there. Don't even let that cat out the bag yet.
I mean,
don't go there yet, because
big shout
I'm gonna
out.
slay you in a little bit here.
It's fine. Big shout out to Stephen Lilly for the £2 super chat. Says division on the line, big game, and Dak chokes again.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely evident. I mean, on the pick six, he threw that to Kendall Fuller the play before that, and Fuller
Another
dropped
pick six,
it.
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then literally went right back to it.
But he also, I thought he had an interception that was called back by a penalty as well.
Oh,
right
maybe he did. Was it right before that, or did he drop the pick six? I think it was either a penalty. It was either a penalty or he dropped. I think he dropped it. Literally the play before that, Kendall Fuller dropped it, and it would have been a pick six because it was the same exact play, same exact opening on that side of the field. But yeah, big shout out to Stephen Lilly. We appreciate it, super chat as always.
And you know what I'll say about that, about, you know, Dak choking.
I don't really want to say choking either.
Exactly. I don't look at it
phrase.
like he just choked, but I like to say this a lot on this podcast, because I really do believe this. And I'm starting to lean it from, I used to say a franchise quarterback. I'm starting to lean this into elite quarterback. You have elite quarterbacks, and then you have quarterbacks that need a rushing attack to be able to be effective. And Dak Prescott is somewhere teetering that line.
In between, yeah.
You know, I remember at the beginning of the 2021 season, Dak Prescott looked like a quarterback that you could just drop back and pass the ball 35 times and he could excel. But now they've had this transition with CeeDee Lamb going to the number one wide receiver position with the Dallas Cowboys. They lost Amari Cooper. A lot of people were down on Amari Cooper. I looked up them stats today. I don't know if you remember this when I said this last season. I said the only reason why Amari Cooper's productivity has fell off is because he's not getting the targets. It was the second lowest target share that Amari Cooper had last season. He was just above 100. I think he had like 101 or 102 last year. And you look at him right now with the Cleveland Browns, he had about 78 receptions on the year. They gave him 135 targets, and he excelled in that offense. He looked like a true number one again. I think that Dallas probably made the wrong move in that, and we can't forget they traded just a 6th-round draft pick and let Amari Cooper go. So I think you could have found a way. More players are going to start to look at the NFL like this, I feel like, and do what Tom Brady was doing over his career. Keep the players around that are going to make you look better and make you excel. A guy like Amari Cooper with CeeDee Lamb, with the tandem that they have in the backfield, it makes Dak Prescott a better quarterback. So if I'm Dak Prescott and I'm sitting there and it's time to sign the contract, I'm willing to take a little bit less money if the stipulation is you're going to keep my weapons around me, because Michael Gallup and Noah Brown, they do not suffice for what Amari Cooper brought to that offense. And now you're really just relying on CeeDee Lamb and the tight end to be able to make up for the productivity that's missing from Amari Cooper. And you see it with Dak this year. You really do.
And how many times have we talked about, especially over the last couple of weeks, about having to have a tandem at the wide receiver position?
Oh, yeah.
And how important
that 1A,
it is.
1B now. It's so much more. The shift from how great quarterbacks are from the past 3 years now has completely changed. You know, and I use Gardner Minshew as an example. 3 years ago, that guy looked like he was going to be a decent quarterback in the NFL. And right now, I'm not saying Gardner can't go out there and get a job or nothing like that, but he looks like the old style of quarterback. And I said this on a couple podcasts ago about Joe Burrow being like the last of those guys. Not after that performance we just saw. Joe Burrow can move.
Oh, yeah.
You see some of the way that he was evading pressure in that game. There was a couple times where he had to
with
throw it away.
the eyes down the field, too.
Dog,
like, I seen the one where he kind of did like a jump cut.
Man.
A quarterback doing a jump cut. Yeah, he's good in the pocket, too. But I think, and if you go back and you watch Awthentik and The Beard 2 years ago, I said, you know, people were giving me flack because I said, you know, during the whole Zeke Elliott holdout thing, I said, you know, I understand the holdout for Zeke as a player because I will always side with the player when it comes to that, because their contracts aren't guaranteed and teams will do whatever they have to do that's best for them and not necessarily worry about the player. And you have to protect yourself, especially by, you know, putting yourself and your body on the line, you know, for all of these games. So it wasn't that I didn't side with Zeke, but I thought that it was going to come back and haunt them because Zeke Dak, and Cooper, the way that they had structured those contracts, and I said it then, and I'll stick by it right now, is that that's where they dug themselves in the hole because it only gave them a 1-year window, basically. Yep. And then now, when they made the decision to let Amari Cooper go, of the three, if you look back on it now, I think 90% of Dallas Cowboys fans in their situation right now would have said, let's keep Cooper and let's deal Zeke, because you would still have
wasn't Michael
Pollard.
Gallup a free agent as well?
I
feel like he just signed an extension.
Was that last year before the ACL injury, I believe, or they either signed him? It was either before the ACL or after the ACL.
I think it was 20. I believe it was 2021 because it was after the Giants brought in Kenny Galladay, I thought.
So then it was last year, then I guess, and it was before he tore his ACL. But yeah, I think that's
Kai
where
says it was after. Yeah, Kai says it was after, and he was a free agent, but it was after.
Okay, so I think that it was that's where they made the mistake. I mean, obviously this is hindsight. You know, it's easier to look at now, but I think that's where they really made their decision. It backfired on them with Amari Cooper and Zeke and Dak and the way that they structured all those contracts, obviously. But it's easier to look back on it now.
After the ACL. It was after the ACL.
So it was in between. It was this recent.
Yeah. So they dealt Amari Cooper first, and then they gave him the extension. Which I like Michael Gallup, but he's not a clear-cut number 2. I really think Michael Gallup is in that Darius Slayton kind of a lane, to be honest.
Yeah,
with less drops.
He's shown flashes, but he's better in that third guy role. He's better in like a top tier. But that's the thing, is like sometimes it's like a top tier 2 isn't necessarily meant to be a number 1. He's best served as a 2. Same thing goes with a 3.
Or even
sometimes
a 3, because they had CeeDee Lamb and they had Amari Cooper. So he was kind of a 3. And even look at Cedric Wilson, who was over there excelling as well in that offense.
They let him go.
He went to Miami. I haven't heard his name since.
Nope. I mean, they went out. Miami just started signing offensive players at one point. You know, it just was kind of crazy. But you know, obviously to move on, you know, from that aspect and back to Washington, a lot of these young guys, man, defensively especially, they played well, and I think Sam Howell played well. I mean, you know, I heard some talk on the radio, and it was a great point, I thought, and they said, well, you know, like, well, why didn't they play like this against Cleveland? Or, you know, like, if he could have done like this now, why couldn't he have done this earlier? It's a lot easier.
Speaking on Sam Howell?
And some of the players in general, but Sam Howell.
You said he. I thought you were talking about like a specific player.
Well, yeah,
so
Sam
like,
Howell in general,
Bruiser style behind the run,
and just playing well, you know, especially defensively. Some of these young guys, and the point was brought up that it's a lot easier when you're a young player to play in a situation where there's nothing to lose, as opposed to playing where everything is on the line. You know, it's just historically young players.
There was a lot of moving parts, though, man. I talked about this last podcast as well. You know, Jahan Dotson wasn't healthy throughout that whole stretch with Taylor Heineke. Yeah. Taylor Heineke plays like he ain't got shit to lose. That's for sure, because he knows every down could be the last down. You know, and I also think Chase Young coming back into the lineup helps the defense. Y'all are getting to the quarterback a little bit faster. It didn't show a ton in this game. I think Dak Prescott was only sacked like a couple times in this game.
One or two times.
Like that. Yeah, but his stats across the board were just God awful.
I think it was his worst game as a professional
It's his worst
quarterback.
game. I mean, look at the QBR, 14.8. He was only sacked one time. But to throw the ball 30, I would love to see statistics about this. How do you throw the ball 37 times and only come away with 128 yards? That was the critical part of it all to me, because you would think he would at least get somewhere near 200 yards, but this was awful. 2.9 yards per play for the Dallas Cowboys. To me, it's the worst I've seen their offense, maybe in the entire Dak Prescott era. Possibly.
I mean, it was bad. Sometimes when there's games like this, you can kind of point to something and it make it all make sense, right?
Yeah.
Everything didn't look good. The running game was bad. Dak looked off. Nobody was getting open. You know what I'm saying?
Not a lot of separation. Running game was just not there.
Nope. I mean, I still don't think Tony Pollard's 100% either. I think he's still feeling it a little bit. It's just, there's just a lot going on. Play calling was a little suspect at times, you know, for the Dallas Cowboys. It just did not look good at all. And it was interesting to see all of that happening in a game where, and I see Monique and you guys having a conversation about it being on the line or not being on the line. To me, it's on the line to a certain extent because you have to win.
You entered the game with that on your mind because you knew you had a shot. So when you start the game, it's on the line. And I said this to the Beard, when we were pulling up for this backstage and whatnot, like they might have been scoreboard watching a little bit like, oh man, 49ers are up big in that game. The Eagles are already up 16-0 on the Giants. And maybe, you start to dial back, the RPMs come down a little bit and you go, well, let's not make the crazy risk and get our quarterback hurt in a game where we're already down by, 7 points at the half and whatnot. But entering the game, the division is on the line and the number one spot is on the line as well in the NFC. So I don't think they came out there and like made this middle of the game decision like, hey, look, we're not going to get the number one seed anymore. Let's kind of dial it back. Or, the division's not on the line. The division was on the line. If the Giants put up a decent fight against the Philadelphia Eagles, you never know. With a little bit more time in that game, maybe the Giants get one more opportunity and you get an upset. I think you gotta go if the division was on the line.
Yeah, because in order to win, no matter what, you have to win. You know what I'm saying? So technically, I guess it was on the line, but it just didn't work. Nothing was working for them. It was pretty ugly, and obviously Washington wasn't that much better, but they did somewhat take advantage. I mean, to be perfectly honest, excuse me, I got to clear my throat for this one. I drank all my drink. We could have put up 40. We could have put up 40 points on the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree with you. If y'all would have played mistake-free football and had that offense moving a little bit better, for sure.
Sly misses 2 field goals and an extra
that's
point.
6 right there.
That's 7 right there. That's 7 right there, and then an interception.
33.
And then if that would have been our highest point total of the season.
Oh, 33. Oh yeah, because 32 was the highest against the Eagles. Yep.
So that would have been our highest point total of the season, and then obviously the interception in the red zone. You could have given us 7. It would have been 40. If
3,
it's 3,
there.
36.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely all there for sure. Big shout out to Fabian for the $2 super chat. Said, I stepped outside. Dak made the DMV smell like poo.
That's facts.
Big shout out to Monique for the $1.99 super chat. Says it was lack of warming benches. They were cold.
They didn't bring their benches this time? Remember when they complained
I guess
about
not.
that?
Yeah, that was a big, a funny thing. But as far as Sam Howell goes, I saw Awthentik laugh at me when I said he was about everything that I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, let's talk about Sam Howell a little bit here, okay? So Sam Howell, he became the first rookie quarterback to throw his first NFL pass for a touchdown since my man Mike White did it in 2021. Howell is also the first Washington rookie quarterback to have a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown in a single game since your boy RG3. That's why I wanted to talk about RG3. I jumped the gun on that one. Sam Howell was 11 of 19 for 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a QBR of 44.5, and he had 1 rushing touchdown. Now, on our show on Sunday on the Parlay, we were talking about the prediction of the statistics, and this is where I'm saying, okay, you got to keep it 100 here. We'll call this the editing department. They came back with the transcripts, okay? And the transcript here says, it reads, Beard, I think Sam Howell goes for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. We'll go over 40 and Washington wins. Awthentik says, I'll give him 18 of 27, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
So I'd say Awthentik was closer than the Beard.
I'd say that's a W for me. Which
I love how you read. I love how you read the transcripts too.
You like
that sounded real court TV-ish.
You like that, right? Throw a red flag on that one time. But which prompts me to this question that I did jump the gun on here. But what do you think about this? Should the Commanders go into next season with Sam Howell as the starter after what you saw on Sunday?
So before I answer the question, I'll give you what I saw on Sunday. As outside of my lucrative prediction of 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, he performed. He did the things that I thought he could do. Obviously, he has that ability in and around the pocket, a la Taylor Heineke. He has that gamer mentality. You saw him. He can run the ball for the touchdown, things like that. He has the arm. We saw that. But you did also see an underthrown pass where McLaurin drew the pass interference play. So it's not necessarily perfect cannon all the time. There was that one underthrown pass. The interception was obviously a very rookie interception.
Yeah,
and
Ron Rivera sat him down, gave him a good talk. You could tell.
Yeah.
You know, he gave him that Brian Dable, Daniel Jones moment at the beginning of the year when Daniel Jones threw that interception. Like, yo, you can't be doing that in this league, bro.
No, yeah, that was something that you could get away with in college, maybe, but not in NFL. I thought it not only just the decision making aspect of it, but I didn't like the mechanics of that play. If you look at that interception, he is drifting back in the pocket when the pocket's not even really collapsing. He's kind of just. We've seen this with young quarterbacks where they kind of just they hike the ball and they just start going back. It's not even like a 3-step, 5-step drop.
Space and whatnot.
Yeah, and he throws it off his back foot. So everything about that play was wrong. That's a rookie mistake. But I did like the way that he responded after the interception. His placement on his throws. His placement on his throws were really, really impressive. I thought his accuracy for 90% of the time was really spot on.
Yep.
He was leading his receivers, which is something that we didn't see Taylor Heineke do often during this season. And then there was a
last part. What was that last part about Heineke? I missed that part. Sorry.
Oh, he was leading his receivers, which is something we didn't necessarily see out of Taylor Heineke this season. You know, Taylor Heineke would hit his receivers, but not necessarily in stride. There was a lot of times.
To me, the most impressive throw was that out route to Jahan Dotson, and the throw on the sideline to Jahan Dotson. Just good placement, good timing. He looked like an NFL quarterback in that game.
And I think that the play calling too. Obviously, there was. I mean, I don't know how many times we've been asking for slants this year, and just were non-existent in the playbook. And then obviously we finally saw slants on more than one occasion in this game. One to Jahan Dotson and one to McLaurin. And I thought that those were good examples of.
I'm not a big fan of the slant no more. And when I played wide receiver, I hated the slant. Like, don't send me. I'm very frail going across that middle. Please do not send me on a slant right at the linebacker to get my head taken off. But I like the slant. I like the way that the Philadelphia Eagles run it off the RPO type vibes, and I like it off play action. Those are the. You get those linebackers to step up, and then you get that small window that's kind of behind the linebacker, on the inside of the cornerback.
And before I answer the question, big shout out to our guy, Paulie, for the $2 super chat. This couldn't keep Cooper called Dak the Black Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that was in that meme that I retweeted on Twitter that went crazy, where they had all the different versions of Kirk Cousins. It was like Kirk Cousins' cousin, and it was like Derek Carr. It was like stumbling Kirk Cousins. It was Danny Jones. It was they had the black Kirk Cousins, which was Dak Prescott. It was a few other quarterbacks on there. It was like every quarterback is. Oh, they had like the long neck Kirk Cousins, which was Mike Glennon. They had a bunch of those like that. But shout out to Paul. He did say the streets needed a body. They definitely got the body. But what you think about Sam Howell here? Before you answer, I will say this about Sam Howell. One thing you kind of didn't touch on here. He's a big body. He's a thick quarterback. He's not like one of these. He's just ripped, man. Like, he's probably the most bulky quarterback, like, in the league right now. Is there another quarterback that's that bulky? Like, when I see him, his whole neck, his arms, everything is just swole on that kid, and he can move. He's pretty fast. So, as a runner, I like Sam Howell. I think he can be a dangerous weapon moving forward. But what's your thoughts on the question?
I mean, he does kind of look like – he looks like Baker Mayfield on steroids, kind of.
Yeah. He's a little bit taller than Baker, right?
Yeah, he's a little taller than Baker. He looks like he works in a shipyard. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's the guy that you look in the second season of The Wire. You might be sitting at that bar in Greektown, and you kind of look over and you see Sam Howell, having a beer.
Tim Tebow type of build.
Yeah,
that's the kind of build I see.
So to answer the question, by default, yes, Sam Howell is QB1 right now. Because obviously Taylor Heineke is a free agent.
Well, come on, don't give me the political stuff. It says, should the Commanders go into next season with Sam Howell as a starter, not is he? Should they? Really what I'm leaning on is, do you draft a quarterback or do you bring in another quarterback? You said you guys signed Jake Fromm to a future deal today or something crazy like that too. Yeah,
he's like it's like a weird sort of contract that you give practice squad players.
I can speak for every Giants fan across the country. Jake Fromm stinks. He is terrible.
Yes, this is a good one too. Kai, he does look like he works on an oil rig. He looks like he's in Armageddon. He was in the
beginning scene of Armageddon, right?
I don't know how to answer this question because
simple. You want me to answer it first?
Yeah,
I'll say no. I think he put up a pretty decent day, but when you look at the stats, the QBR 44, he was 11 of 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a decent day, and I like the skill set that I see. He looks like an NFL quarterback, but I think the question is, does he look like a starter for Washington? And you know my opinions on the Washington quarterback situation. It's been botched pretty much now for a whole damn decade. Yeah. Y'all need to either go out there and get somebody in the draft that you got big faith in. The Chicago Bears got that number 1 pick. I think you guys could trade up and try to get their spot and bring in a real deal quarterback and have him compete with Sam Howell. But I wouldn't just give him the keys quite yet because this would be just like the mouse wheel. You know, like you're taking a shot on another quarterback who really don't look like he got the intangibles to be a star in this league at least. Possibly could be a franchise guy. I don't know. You know, these guys do get better. This is the debut of him. But I think you got to go out there and get somebody who's either extremely proven. Like, you know, I saw people talking about Lamar Jackson over here on Twitter and whatnot. And if he's a guy that's available and you could trade and make the move, I think you do it because this window is not going to last forever. We're talking about this game against the Dallas Cowboys who just dealt with this. You got a good running back in Brian Robinson who's a young guy. You got Antonio Gibson who knows, might not even be there next year. But you got Terry McLaurin, you got Curtis Samuel, and you got Jahan Dotson over there, which all three of them are of different age brackets when you look at them, right? You got to capitalize on trying to make your run in the next 2 years if you want to do it with this core. You got 4 first-round draft picks on that defensive line that they're not going to be getting no younger. So I think you got about a 1 to 2, 1 to 3 year type window to try to go out there and go get your Super Bowl and then start the rebuild possibly. So for me, it's like Sam Howell could be the guy you bring. I wouldn't even be thinking about Jake Fromm. That dude, I just wouldn't even be thinking about him. Sam Howell could be the backup quarterback possibly if you're going to definitely move on from Taylor Heineke. Or you just go out there and you draft your guy or bring in a guy who's already proven. I think that's what you got to do. He doesn't – there's a reason why he didn't play all season, and I saw that on Sunday, although he does look like he can be a decent quarterback in this league for sure. The floor seems like he could be a decent quarterback. Yeah,
it's a very tough situation right now. There's so many factors that go into this. You know, obviously we have other needs. Offensive line is, you know, outside of quarterback because – quarterback is like the Patrick Mahomes tier. It's on its own. We already know that the quarterback position is something that the Commanders need to handle. But the offensive line is by far the biggest, you know, issue outside of the quarterback situation. Then, you know, depth at linebacker and the cornerback position are definitely super important too. And not necessarily just the corner, but the secondary in general, because you saw that when Cam Curl was out, Benjamin St-Juste was out. Obviously, when we lost Cole Holcomb, you know, there was some issues in those areas of the defense. So those are definitely some things. And I think tight end, as much as I love Logan Thomas, I think, you know, I hate to say this, and I think I would get killed by a lot of people in you know, Washington fan base. And I mean, I'm a little biased, but I would not, if you can address the offensive line in other areas, I would not be mad at Washington drafting Michael Mayer at the 16th pick.
Okay.
I would not be mad at
Logan
it.
Thomas is no young pup either. He's getting old.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
31 years old. So, I mean.
So that's definitely an option.
That's the thing about those ranges of the players that you have on this team. You know, there's a lot of young talent, but then there's those guys on the cusp of like the 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 type age where you can't wait till they're 34 years old and Sam Howell develops, you know, or let's say 33 years old and he develops and then you're trying to make your run there. It's an interesting thing, but I think he did play well enough to show you that he belongs on the roster next year and have an active spot and have a jersey on game day for sure.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be in the mix. 100% he's in the mix. I mean, he's a rookie. He's on the team. He's on a rookie deal. And the best thing in the world of football, in the NFL, is having a starting quarterback on a rookie deal. There is nothing better than that in the NFL. Let's just be perfect. Unless you have a unicorn, the best thing is a starting quarterback on a rookie deal.
Or unicorn on a rookie deal.
Oh Jesus, that's a holy grail. That's, you know, that's the King Tut right there. But it's just the other thing is too is like, to move up is going to take a lot. You know, you have to remember too that we're going to be without a 3rd round pick from the Carson Wentz deal. So, you know, do we even have the like? You have to be sold on a guy. Now, for me, right now, I think I would take CJ Stroud over Bryce Young right now.
I feel you.
And I'm not necessarily sold on the Kentucky kid yet either.
Will Levis.
Yeah.
Cannon, the video going around, he shows you he's got a cannon. He's another quarterback built. I think you already kind of have a Will Levis in this kid right here, Sam
Exactly.
Howell.
So it's like I just don't think that you're going to get one of the top quarterbacks in this year's draft. I mean, obviously there's an Anthony Richards situation, but with him, he's a project too. He's not going to come in and start right away or even compete for the starting job. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't rule it out though. I wouldn't rule it out.
I mean, you can't rule it out.
The narrative is that he's a project, but what I see him with my eyes, man, that kid can play some football.
He can play football 100%. But the thing is like that type of football is different in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like,
they were kind of saying that about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, but I thought Lamar Jackson had more tools. He had more tools than Anthony Richardson did. You know what I'm saying?
I'd say similar skill set. But the thing about Lamar is like, when he was falling in that draft, nobody was looking at it like, damn, we're missing out. All of us had a chance to get him.
Yeah.
So we can't sit here in hindsight and say, like, we thought this because we didn't. We really didn't. Like, Lamar Jackson came out here and surprised everybody. In that 2019 season, that dude, he went crazy.
And then the other point is what do you do?
He sat for a while, too.
Free agency, like a trade is a different scenario. But free agency, what are you going to bring in? Andy Dalton?
No, you don't bring in Andy Dalton. Too old.
Derek Carr is not a free agent, though, is he? That would be a trade.
Would it be a trade? Yeah, I
think it would be a trade.
It'd be a trade. And I was going to say something about when you were talking about not having the capital. You guys could trade somebody on that defensive front and get a lot back for it. And I think you have enough pieces to be able to do it. I've seen it with the New York Giants. Defensive tackle and interior defensive linemen, they're pretty expendable. We've seen guys like Snacks get traded away. Linval Joseph, we let walk. There's players that you can actually go out there and trade for. I think that y'all have on that roster right now. You could bundle up one or two players and a couple of draft picks and see yourself to that number one draft position easy, I think.
It's definitely possible. It just depends on if that's the route you want to go. And I see Stan, because I know Stan's a big AR guy. To me, Jalen Hurts was not a project, not even close to a project.
For sure, but across the league, that's what it was. He was a project.
And when I think that there's different levels of project.
But you know what I think is when you have a running quarterback, and I talked to you about this kid from the Jets when he got in the game, that kid Stetson.
Yeah.
When you have a running quarterback, you can buy time to develop him by running stuff like read option and RPO. That's what they did with Jalen Hurts.
And same thing with Justin Fields. But to me,
Justin Fields, they botched that for the first half.
Oh, they did.
Because they had that old coach from Green Bay, I believe it was, who was trying to pretty much turn him into a pocket passer for the first 8 games. And then it was like, okay, Justin Fields is just like, I'm about to if no one's open, I'm taking off and I'm running.
Yeah. To me, AR is more like Malik Willis than he is Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen. You know what I'm saying? Who are people are saying were also.
I don't put Josh Allen in the bracket of Jalen Hurts. They're very. Josh Allen can do a lot.
Yeah, but the thing is what Stan was saying is that a lot of people considered him a project too, just because of where he came from in college.
He was a project too, though,
and stuff like that.
To give Stan a little pushback on that, look at Josh Allen's first 2 years. I mean, the dude wasn't even over 60% completion percentage the first 2 years. He was running the ball.
Different levels to project. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I would say more of. Let's not even use the word project. Let's use the word prospect. Yeah. I think, and when you use the word prospect, when you use the word prospect, you see the talent there, the raw talent, but they're still rough around the edges. There's work to be done in order to bring their full capability to the level that needs to be at in order to be a starter in the NFL. But so there's a lot to, obviously we have to worry. We still got to think about who's going to be the new owner, what direction they want to go in. Because that's the first thing that has to happen. Because although we fired Scott Turner today, which a lot of people didn't think was going to happen because of the ownership, limbo that we're in right now. Because in order for that to happen, Dan Snyder has to sign off on that. Because Dan Snyder is the one that has to pay Scott Turner his money for his contract, even though he got fired.
Yeah.
So but
that's
now, something.
Don't they have somebody that's hired to handle that? Like I'll tell you, in the Giants situation, Dave Gettleman was the GM that really handled contracts. It was John Mara wasn't signing these deals; he was signing off on the deals.
Yeah, but see, in this situation, because Daniel Snyder is selling the team, right? It's his money His money is what's going to be paid to
Of course it's his money,
Scott
but I just
Turner.
don't think he makes a decision. He signs off on it, which is why I think Scott Turner was actually fired today, because Ron Rivera is in control of all y'all moves as far as the organization goes. He does the draft picks. He does all that stuff.
Well, he has that. It was more so like that last year. Now there's a team. There's a team of them. Obviously, you have Mayhew and you have the two Martys basically, who are also GMs.
But
so you
isn't
kind of have
Rivera at the top of that pool?
He is, but
Right.
he's
So
not.
This is what I'm saying is, like, if there was an issue that had to be handled by the owner, I don't think Scott Turner would get fired today. They would be like, just wait on all that stuff. The season's over. Y'all not going to the playoffs. They would just be like, wait on all that until we get all this sold away. But I think, to me, this kind of says that Ron Rivera is going to really be back, and that Ron Rivera has the pull over there. It just reminds me of what was happening. I can only speak because I'm never deep into these contract negotiations or nothing like that. I can only speak from what I've seen with the New York Giants. All of the contracts were dealt by the GM. And John Mara even came out in an interview and said, I just get stuff on my desk and I say yay or nay. That's it. So I don't think Snyder can hold back what's going to happen as far as who gets on this coaching staff or what players get signed.
He could have held back on this 100% because of the unique situation. And I think that's also, it hinders moving forward, contract negotiations, because Daniel Snyder's not going to necessarily be like, okay, I'm going to sign off on giving all this money to a player and then sell the team. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's a lot of weird
I think all
situations.
that stuff is going to be in the bid. You guys are going to get like $5 billion for the team. The contracts, when he sells this thing away, those contracts aren't going to matter.
It's going to be
I'm talking the floor.
Billion.
The floor was like $5 or $6 billion, because that y'all are the sixth most expensive franchise in the NFL right now, behind the New York Giants too. And I think the Rams, Texans, Cowboys, and there's one other. Oh, the LA Rams are above y'all as well. So for me, it's like the contracts don't matter. He's gonna just get a big bag for selling the team, and then y'all are gonna worry about all that contract stuff. It's about the bid at this point. But to me, just seeing that Scott Turner got fired today, I think that does say a lot about that. It says that Ron Rivera is still kind of in charge, because if he wasn't, I don't think they would have signed off on Scott Turner being fired literally on Monday after the season is over.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because in the press conference, like, he basically, I knew this was happening. There's anybody who didn't know that this was happening, and then obviously people are like, oh, well, now it sucks because, the people who think Sam Howell is already QB1, they're like, now Sam Howell's going to have to learn a new offense. Okay, so I understand that. And so, like, now you're in a very sticky situation also, because, like, it had to be done. Scott Turner had to go. That was it. It had to go. You know what I'm saying? So now we're in a situation where it's like, but now do you think Washington is an attractive situation for an offensive coordinator or unattractive situation for
I think it's a bit attractive because you guys got weapons over there. The quarterback position is the number one thing, but everything else is pretty much set up. I think you got to figure out what you're going to do with Antonio Gibson, and if you guys are going to get rid of Antonio Gibson, you got to bring in another running back. I feel like I like Brian Robinson, but he's not the kind of running back that you can build the offense around. He can be a piece in the offense. You got to get two running backs in there. I don't know who it would be, but I think that's very important, and then get that offensive line fixed. But I think it's a pretty attractive destination. I do.
I mean, obviously, the big hole is the quarterback position. Like, most offensive coordinators want to know who their quarterback is.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you could quite possibly be in a lame duck coaching situation, because if new ownership comes in here, and then after next year they want to start fresh with their own people, then everybody's basically on the table for being gone.
When do you think the latest that happens is that the team will be sold? When do you think? Do you think it'll happen before the draft?
I would imagine it happens by March. That would be logical, but we're in Washington, man, and nothing happens logically here.
There's got to be some information that's not out there right now for this to have happened today with Scott Turner. I think there's some information that's not out there about maybe Ron Rivera is going to be here for a transitional period at bare minimum. That there's no option of him being fired at this point now, because it just doesn't make sense. You fire the play caller when the season's over. And you know what I thought was really interesting? I don't know if you saw the post-game speech that came out. Your boy Carmi on Twitter, we're supposed to go on the show, George Carmi. he posted something and it showed them in the locker room and it said, everyone in this room is important. That's what Ron Rivera was saying. He was like, they all doubting us and whatnot, but everybody in this room is important. And I responded with a picture of Carson Wentz, but then you go and fire the offensive coordinator right after you say that. To me, it just kind of leans towards, Ron Rivera's got a little bit of pull over there, and he's going to be that transitional piece that helps Washington get, accustomed to this new owner and the owner getting accustomed to what's happening in Washington with the team.
Yeah, I definitely think that I don't think Ron Rivera is going anywhere between now and next year. I just don't see that happening. Even if they do make the transition. Sorry, there's something going on outside my house. I apologize.
I got you.
No, some dogs. I just wanted to make sure that Josie wasn't back with Ace and they were getting attacked by another dog because I heard some yelling and stuff like that.
True,
but
true.
I think we're okay. But I definitely don't see Ron Rivera being moved away from this next season. Nobody knows what's going to happen after that, though, because of new ownership. So first and foremost, you have to get new ownership. I do think that Scott Turner being fired had to happen no matter what, because somebody needed to be held accountable. As Paulie said, the streets needed a body. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sam,
we just answered that question you asking right now. We just talked about it for 20 minutes, bro. He said, here's the $1 million question. We just talked about it for 20 minutes. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. The streets did need a body. I'm with you on that for sure. And I do think if ownership was intact, Ron Rivera would be on the hot seat at bare minimum right now because, I talked about in the opener, man, 3 seasons, no winning season. Yeah. This dude really has had no success in his tenure as a head coach outside of what happened with Cam Newton in Carolina, and he hasn't been a good coach. I told you about some of the things that I questioned on the last episode where I was like, he just don't strike me as a guy who's literally deep in the trenches as far as the schemes that are happening, especially offensively. And he is a defensive coach, but he strikes me as a guy that's kind of maybe his age is kind of starting to catch up with him a little bit, and the game is starting to change, and he's not adapting to the game. And then if that's the case, you need an offensive coordinator who is that guy. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why he got fired. And this might be a last-ditch effort. But for me, what I've seen from Washington is just constant botching of the quarterback position, year after year after year after year. And then you fire Scott Turner at the end of the year when you beat Dallas, when this probably should have been done mid-season somewhere. Scott Turner could have probably been fired sometime around right before y'all played us or something like that. Instead, you end up going throughout the season, and let's just say we don't know what's happening in that locker room, right? I don't know if Scott Turner was leaning towards Carson Wentz, as getting back healthy and coming back. Or I don't know if Scott Turner was like, man, we should rock with Taylor Heineke, and Ron Rivera might have had a beef with that, or vice versa. We really don't know. And if that's the case, just think about it. What if he was vouching for the other quarterback to play and you end up firing him after this? It looks crazy.
Yeah, and so 2 days ago, I think it was, Sam Fortier, who is a writer, covers the Washington Commanders, he published a story that had 9 anonymous Washington offensive players all basically say that Scott Turner was not the guy, and complained about Scott Turner, his play calling, and basically said, it's not working with Scott Turner.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm saying, why they ain't just fire him earlier? We
talked about it. We talked about it.
Promoted to quarterback, you could just see the spark from Terry McLaurin, the leader of that team. You saw that spark, right? Because I think he felt like the offense was pretty vanilla with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Not that Taylor Heineke made it that much more chocolate, and brought some swag to it. But you saw that there were problems with the play calling early on in the year. And then also, I'll tell you, another pivotal interview is Brian Robinson just about 4 weeks ago, where he was like, he literally called out Scott Turner. He also said, I got to blame myself as well, but we got to put onus on the coaches as well, too. The coaches aren't putting us in the best position on offense to score points. That should have let them know right there.
Yeah, so it's now you need an offensive coordinator, a quarterback. Obviously, you need offensive line. It's going to be a new owner, so it's going to be very interesting. And we talked about this multiple times over the last couple of weeks about how this offseason is going to be different than any of the off seasons in recent history. Although it's very Groundhoggish Day to a certain extent, obviously, because once again Washington is looking for a new quarterback. So there's it's just. And there's going to be name after name after name after name, just like it was last offseason. And then
see a couple
all
already.
of a sudden, all of a sudden it was Carson Wentz. And I was just like, wait, what?
And y'all made the decision on Carson Wentz so quickly. And I'll tell you this, man, everybody who's been ragging on Russell Wilson, he showed you in that last game. He still got a little something. You see that throw with he threw like a 45-yard pass down the field with pressure coming right down the pike, man. I think Russell Wilson, it's all about how you build the offense around him. At this point,
the coaching was in Denver was just god awful.
Terrible. It was terrible. And you could not even just like management of time, but just the scheme. Everything over there was just not good. But I see Lamamba James talking about Jimmy G. I don't think that's a good move because the Jimmy G move would remind me of a lot like what they did with Alex Smith. It's not going to get you over the hump, okay? And I'm talking even before Alex Smith broke the leg. It's not going to get you over the hump. It's going to win you a couple games. It's going to keep you in that 500 type of record purgatory. You're never going to be able to get out of that. To me, the floor at the quarterback position for the kind of guy you bring in is Derek Carr. If it's not Derek Carr better, don't bring in another quarterback. Just go to the draft and get the quarterback out of the draft and hope it works out within the first 2 years of his contract. It's the only thing you can do. So, you don't want to bring in an OG like an Aaron Rodgers or something like that if he's available.
What about Tom Brady?
No, I wouldn't bring in Tom Brady. Look at Tom Brady with the Bucs right now. They're built similar to y'all.
Yeah. Ooh, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold,
nope,
Jimmy G,
nope,
Teddy Bridgewater,
no,
Daniel Jones.
No. Daniel Jones probably not going to be available. If he was available, maybe.
Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph,
come on,
Jacoby Brissett,
nope,
Geno Smith.
Geno's a free agent after this year?
Yep.
That's interesting. So they're going to have a decision to make on him. I think Seattle brings back Geno. Geno had a hell of a year.
Joe
Only
Flacco.
Completion percentage over, was it 70 or 80 this year, I believe?
70.
70. Only quarterback in the whole entire league. Flacco,
Joe Flacco,
come on. Don't read the names that don't make no sense. Flacco.
Andy Dalton.
Come on, bro.
Mike White. Oof. Lamar Jackson.
That's the only one.
Drew Lock. After that, that's it, man. Gardner Minshew.
Nope, that's Taylor Heineke's cousin right there.
So, I mean, like,
there's only like two quarterbacks you listed that I would bring back over Taylor Heineke. What you do is you draft a quarterback or you bring in Derek Carr.
But what if you can't get up to get a quarterback?
Find a way. Y'all, like I said, I already told you the pieces you got that you could trade. You might have to let go of one of your elite defensive linemen. You mean tell me somebody not going to give you a first pick for a guy like Daron Payne and like 2 picks? Of course they would. But he's a free agent, ain't he?
Yeah.
So you got to figure out how to handle that.
But
contract
he's a restricted free agent, not unrestricted.
Yeah.
So we can.
Let me ask you this too.
Him.
When you there was something about the franchise tag I wanted to ask you. I can't remember. There was something about the franchise tag I wanted to ask you. It just slipped my mind that fast though. So but I don't think y'all are in a tight corner here. There's not a lot you can do.
Because to me, it's if you can't get because I don't want to.
Oh, I got it now. I got it now. If a team franchise tags a quarterback, you can't make a bigger offer than the franchise tag to bring him in, right? Once he's franchise tagged, he's officially on that. Like, let's say the Ravens franchise tag Lamar. He's a Raven, right?
Yeah, I don't. The only way that works, I think that's which they referred to as the tender sheets, something along those lines. I think that's different than the franchise tag. I don't think you can't sign a player because the whole thing is the difference between a restricted free agent and an unrestricted free agent is when you're an unrestricted free agent, you can, you have free reign, right? But if you're a restricted free agent, then you can get franchise tagged. So I don't know if the Ravens can franchise tag Lamar Jackson or not.
People have been talking about it, so I would expect they could.
Because
everyone's been saying that's the expected thing, that they're going to franchise tag him.
Because from what I understood, you couldn't franchise tag an unrestricted free agent.
Isn't that the same case with Daniel Jones, too? He's unrestricted free agent if they don't re-sign him. They're talking about franchise tagging him, so you can do it. And I see Lamamba and Stan going back and forth in the chat about Daniel Jones. He's not trolling. Stan is not trolling by saying that Daniel Jones, there's a possibility that he could be available. You saw all the reports come out where Boomer Esiason went on their show with Gio, and he said, it looks like Daniel Jones is going to get the contract. Patricia Traynor came out with an article, wrote a whole article about the kind of money he could be making, and then had to take it down. She redacted the article because there was false information in it. She was like, I cannot steer y'all the wrong way. So, like, I mean, I would lean towards Daniel Jones coming back for the New York Giants for sure, but I would not rule. You know me, man. I don't rule stuff out. There's definitely a possibility that Daniel Jones could be on the market, get a bigger offer from another team, and take it. I heard, I can't remember homie's name, but he's a beat writer for the New York Giants. He said that the market for Daniel Jones is going to be somewhere between 13 and 16 million a year. So imagine if you're Daniel Jones and that's what they offer you, and then Washington comes in and offers you 35 mil. What, you going to just come back to the Giants just because? What, they double up the money? So for me, there's an opportunity there. I would lean towards Daniel Jones coming back the way that he's played lately because he's been balling out, but don't rule it out. Don't look at it like it's a sure shot that Daniel Jones is going to be a Giant, not only next year, but for the rest of his career.
Because I read that he was apparently the story had been coming out that his agent and them were demanding.
Oh no, that was wrong. That was wrong.
40 million or something like that.
That was that was Wes Steinberg. Whenever you see something from Wes Steinberg, no, it's a troll account. And who is it that reported it? The kid, man, what's his name? Alex something. Fireside Giants. They retweeted it and it went out and everybody started believing it. But in small caption at the bottom, the quote said it was Wes Steinberg. Anytime you see Wes Steinberg, just know it's all bullshit.
So the franchise tag is, because I think this is important that we kind of just, go over this a little bit. You can use a franchise tag as a designation a team may apply to a player scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
And so back to what we were talking about now, there's an exclusive franchise tag, and then which does not allow the player to negotiate with other teams. The player's team has all the negotiating rights to the exclusive player. Then there's a non-exclusive franchise tag where the non-exclusive franchise player may negotiate with other NFL teams, but if the player signs an offer from another team, the original team has a right to match the terms of that offer, or if it does not match the offer, thus loses the player, they get to receive 2 first-round draft picks as compensation.
Right. And that's what they talked about with Daniel Jones. That's the situation they were talking about with Daniel Jones. And I just want to address this one right here. Yeah, Wes Steinberg is definitely a legend, Muhammad. That's facts right there. But this is a contradiction in itself right here, what you're saying. Authentic, you don't rule nothing out, but DJ is guaranteed. That's a contradiction right there. It's why I'm not ruling it out. To me, there is a chance there, and I would say I would lean 80% Daniel Jones is going to be back next season. But his play this year has been good, but if he's warranting something like $30+ million and the Giants ain't going for that, they're not going for it. And that you saw it with Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo with Joe Shane already. They went to the playoffs. Tyrod Taylor's statistics were damn near a mirror image of what Daniel Jones put up this year outside the 700 rushing yards. And they went out there and drafted Josh Allen. So we don't know what's going to happen. I'm never going to sit up here and act like I guarantee this or I guarantee that. I mean, you might be right. Who knows? But I always leave out that little bit of space just in case, because why else would a beat writer retract a whole article today? It's almost like, and she said that a source came up to her and said, that's wrong information. So she decided to take it down. This is somebody who's at every interview and every press conference for the New York Giants. I gotta believe that at least a little bit that things are not settled. And Joe Shane's a smart guy. He's not about to make no decision on this deal right now with the Giants going for a first-round playoff win. He's not about to do that. So all of this is going to happen in the offseason.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. Big shout-out to Rob S. for the $19.99 super chat. Says, production takes info and drip still fire. We appreciate you, Rob.
We appreciate you. Big salute to Rob one time.
Yeah, this is an original. This is OG. Okay, I saw somebody mention it earlier in the chat. This is an OG Orioles All-Star Game, 1993, sports specialties, so legit vintage. Well, this is one for the PC right here, baby. So shout out to somebody who earlier in the chat, I forgot to shout you out, but I saw you recognize that. So shout out to you guys. We appreciate it. Listen, this is going to be a very bumpy ride.
Lamamba, I did explain how it is. You know, it's contradictory because you're saying that you don't rule anything out, but then you're saying it's a guarantee. I don't know how better I can explain that, right? Like, those am I tripping, or do those two things contradict each other a little bit?
No, I understand what you're saying. You can't say that. Yeah.
You can't say something is 100%, but then also say you don't rule anything out. That's why I'm saying that. Guarantee means it's 100%.
Yeah, you can't. And listen, if there's anything we've learned when it comes to sports and contracts and free agency, can never rule anything out. I mean, look at this Carlos Correa situation.
Oh,
the dude left the Twins, signed a $300 million deal with the Giants, and then obviously some medical stuff. Then went to the Mets for another $300 million, and then that deal didn't go down. And then somebody said today, which is interesting, and this is how it correlates. They said, sources are telling me that it is a done deal that Correa is going to go to the Mets. And then literally 16 hours later, news came out that he's back with the Twins for $200 million or whatever.
Big money too. Big money.
You can never put anything out to the pasture too early or too late. It's going to be a weird off season. So just buckle up. I am personally, obviously, I don't ever want to, wish ill will upon somebody losing their job because it sucks. But that's the nature of this business. And I wanted to see us move on from Scott Turner. So I think that is a step in the right direction. So it's like, I get, a win over the Cowboys. I get to see Sam Howell and Scott Turner, let go in a matter of 2-3 days. So for me, I'm excited with where things are going, but obviously there is a long road ahead to go for the Washington Commanders.
Everyone is in an interesting space this year, I feel like, man. The NFC East definitely performed really well this year, man. Got a lot of wins. Our floor of our division is a 500 team of the Washington Commanders. We'll see, man, how things go in this offseason. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm like, not as much as I'm looking forward to the playoffs, but I'm definitely looking forward to this offseason. This is going to be an interesting one, and this is going to be like last year I really paid attention to the draft, and this is going to be another one of those years where I'm really paying attention to the draft. And you got a lot of players out there, man. The Giants got a lot of different options on the table, and the Commanders as well, man. Definitely can make a move at the quarterback position, or you can just start, or continue to keep building around the quarterback position until you find the right guy. But that clock is ticking. That clock is ticking.
Oh, the clock. We are on the clock. Washington.
Yeah, definitely.
You are now on the clock.
All right, well, we could put a button on this game. I take it, man. Best of luck to Scott Turner, man. We'll see if he can get another job. I think he's going to have to work his way up again to see if he's going to be
and you want to know what?
Offensive coordinator again.
Before Scott Turner is not – he's like a ghostwriter in the rap game, right? Like you can write dope raps.
Yeah.
You can't rap.
His father was a rapper in the 80s.
Scott Turner, he could draw up good plays. He just can't call them. So I think that's the best analogy I could put for Scott Turner. I think he'll find a place in this league. He just needs to reevaluate the way that he calls plays and manages games.
Definitely feel you on that. Again, best of luck to him, man. Let's talk about this Giants game, man. This one was a interesting one to say the least, man. But let's talk about the Giants. They head to Philadelphia, and they took upon the Eagles this past Sunday.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
All right, y'all. Our New York Giants now sitting at 9-7-1. The regular season comes to an end. And the Giants will be the 6th seed heading to Minnesota to take on the number 3 Vikings. It's great to see my Giants get their second bye of the season one time, man, against Philadelphia Eagles this past weekend. Rested a ton of starters, a ton of players, even backups was rested in this game. Jalen Hurts returned from a sprained right shoulder wearing a Michael Jordan shirt that said, "I'm back." I thought that was pretty interesting. He had a decent game. Wasn't asked to do much in a very conservative game plan versus the Giants CBA team. Jalen Hurts was 20 of 35 on the day. Let me pull up his stats real quick for all of y'all out there one time. I think I had those here. I don't have Jalen Hurts stats. Okay, well, I can read them off for you. He was 20 of 35 for 229 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 24.9. That's got to be one of his lower QBRs of the year. The Eagles led at the half 16-0. Giants scored 16 points in the second half to kind of make this a game. And down 6 with not much time left, it came down to a Giants onside kick. The Eagles recovered. The game was over. The Eagles defeat the Giants 22-16. It's the first time the Eagles have swept the Giants in a season since 2019. The Giants finished their regular season at 9-7-1. Good for third place in the NFC East. I'm not feeling that right now, but I'm definitely feeling that 9 victories. It's the first time the Giants have had 9 or more victories since 2016 when they had 11 victories with that Odell Beckham, Eli Manning team. We finished the year 4-4 on the road, but just 1-4-1 in the division. That's not a vibe. Last place as far as divisional wins, because I think y'all got y'all second division win beating the Cowboys here on Sunday. The Eagles finish at 14-3. They get the number 1 seed and they win the division. There still has not been a repeat division champion in the NFC East since 2004, which is just really ridiculous. This is the longest active streak in the NFL right now. The Eagles, man, you know, this is why I told you, the Beard, when we were off air backstage. I said, I got a real good feeling about the Eagles maybe getting here to at least the championship game, because they now have won, or they have a winning record in 5 of their past 6 seasons. So to me, they're the team that is consistently on the up and up right now. For the Giants, man, everybody was inactive in this game, man. I mean, so many players: Saquon, Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Julian Love, Leonard Williams, Azeez Ojulari, Adoree Jackson. All those guys were inactive. Daniel Jones, Isaiah Hodgins, Daniel Bellinger, John Feliciano, Mark Lewinsky. I mean, I don't know how they did this. Kayvon Thibodeau, Jalen Smith, Fabian Moreau, Darnay Holmes, Xavier McKinney, and Tyrod Taylor. None of those guys stepped foot on the field one time. The statistics for the guys who were on the field: Davis Webb was 26 of 40 for 168 yards. He had 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. He wasn't sacked on the day. We had some other players that were sacked in this game, ironically. He had a QBR of 73.9. He almost doubled up your boy Sam Howell's QBR. I think that's kind of interesting. He also had 1 rushing touchdown on the day. And Gary Brightwell was definitely a bright spot for the Giants' rushing attack. He had 11 rushes for 60 yards on the day. The Giants averaged 6.0 yards per carry. Lawrence Cager led us in receiving with 8 receptions for 69 yards on 10 targets. Marcus Johnson added 3 receptions for 36 yards on 6 targets. Kenny Golladay got a touchdown in this game. He had 2 receptions for 30 yards. Big shout out to Kenny Golladay. Can we get the round of applause for Kenny Golladay? That's amazing, man. Shout out to Kenny Golladay, man. All of Giants Nation was definitely ecstatic to see him get in the end zone, man. And it was a pretty catch, man. And Darius Slay, I saw him on a clip on Twitter where he was saying, you know, that's what Kenny Golladay does, and that's what he's capable of doing. Kind of made me think, man, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles might make a move on Kenny Golladay, bring him in as a wide receiver 2 to A.J. Brown. Very similar styles of play. I feel like both 50-50 kind of ball catchers. But shout out to Kenny Golladay nonetheless, man. Davis Webb hit him for a touchdown pass, 25 yards, man, with just a minute 38 left in that game. And Gerard Davis, okay, this kid was not on my radar. I think the Giants just scooped this guy up just a couple weeks back or something like that. He had 10 tackles in this game, 1 tackle for loss. He was a first-round draft pick by the Detroit Lions. I don't know why it didn't work out over there. The Detroit Lions have a pretty bad defense. You would think that they would keep any kind of depth over there. Gerard Davis, nonetheless, is a New York Giant. And I saw a lot of tape from Nick Foletto and a couple other people. I saw some tape from Justin Pennick as well from Talking Giants. This kid, he's a flyer. He's like the opposite of all the other linebackers we've had on the roster throughout this year. I'll tag you in a couple of these clips, man. He is like hitting the gap super fast, getting in there. There was a play where he trampled like 3 players. This dude is a physical, aggressive. He's got speed out there. I'm a big fan of him. I think he might have earned his way to a couple of snaps, man, maybe in the playoffs, because we've had some issue at linebacker throughout the whole entire year. Jalen Smith's been kind of holding us down a little bit there, but we know he's had some trouble stepping up, playing the run. And Nick McLeod, man, in the secondary, I thought he had a pretty decent game too. 5 tackles. He had 1.5 sacks in this game, 2 quarterback hits as well. And, you know, in an injury-ridden type of secondary throughout the year, Nick McLeod has stepped up. He's had a couple dropped interceptions. Obviously, he could have had 2 interceptions on the year. He's had a couple of dropped interceptions, but nonetheless had a good game. Dane Belton had his 2nd interception of the year in this one. He had 1 pass deflection and 6 tackles as well. Jalen Hurts, you know, he wasn't really challenged in this game. They went up 16-0 in the first half, kind of coasted to a victory. We've seen a lot of games like this where the Philadelphia Eagles kind of take the foot off the gas pedal in the second half. Boston Scott was, again, a Giants killer in this game.
NFC East killer, man.
He's definitely a killer. He's got 11 career touchdowns, 7 of them coming against the New York Giants. Miles Sanders seemed like they really didn't give him a heavy workload, 11 carries for 33 yards. A.J. Brown did have a big play in this one. Cordell Flott did a pretty decent job in this game, too. I can't go without speaking about him. A.J. Brown did have 95 yards on 4 receptions, 10 targets, so that catch percentage is not that high. Devonta Smith continues to do what he does, man. He had 7 receptions on 8 targets, 67 yards. And Dallas Goedert had 6 receptions for 46 yards on 7 targets. Now, this game, another one, across the NFC East, we had 2 NFC East rivalry matchups here. This was a terrible weekend for third down for all these teams. The Giants were 4 for 14. The Eagles were 5 of 14. We already talked about Dallas and Washington. They were both awful on third down as well. And time of possession was dominated just a little bit by the Philadelphia Eagles. 31 minutes, 26 seconds to the Giants, 28 minutes, 34 seconds. Red zone, though, defense stood up in this game with a couple of backups out there as well, man. The Eagles were 1 of 5 in the red zone, and the Giants were 1 of 2 in the red zone. So not too bad. Eagles only punted the ball 2 times, though. Nope, the red zone maniac was, playing a bit timid here. Got the shoulder injury. You can't go out there and do nothing too crazy to, put your playoff future in jeopardy or in doubt. The Giants punted the ball 6 times in this game. That was not good. And we started off really slow in this one, but we did hold the Philadelphia Eagles to 155 rushing yards on the day. Not too bad. This is the kind of game, man, that I'm pretty much done with this game. I look at it as a bye. The Giants rested their starters, and I kind of want to throw a question at you right away, unless you got a little bit you want to add to this game.
I mean, listen, I shout out to Kenny Galladay. And in situations like this, I do think that it's important to see, guys like you talked about be able to make plays like that, right? Because you're making plays like that against Philadelphia's starting, players. And to know that, if you're in a jam situation where a guy goes out in the Minnesota game, you have another guy that's had some game playing in recent weeks, as in this last week. It's important to know that moving into the playoffs, because when it's playoffs, all hands on deck, everything's on the board. There is no question that, there might be a time where you might need to come in and step up. I like this. So I think that it's
my question in a great way.
I think it's super important that you have those guys have a little bit of water on the bottom of their toes.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Now, were the flowers for Kenny Galladay? We talked about some flowers.
Absolutely, man.
Okay,
I got to give the flowers to Kenny Galladay, man. Listen, do you know how many players, especially at the wide receiver position, that would have been in the situation that Kenny Galladay was in and would have either demanded to be traded, released, said, I'm not playing, all of the above. My man suited up. He ran his routes. The ball got thrown up to him, and he made a play, and he scored a touchdown. And you know how much stuff has been thrown at him over the last 2 years? I mean, let's just be perfectly honest. You know what I'm saying? And he's took it like a man. Never cried. I mean, there's been a couple of
moments.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of moments.
But for the most part,
I should be on the field moment.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
The moment where we backhand Daniel Jones on Monday night or Thursday night. It was Thursday
we both realized as soon as I said that there was a couple little ones, but for the most part, in the end, he's there playing with backups and playing like it means something to him, and I think that was important. So big shout out to Kenny Galladay.
I definitely thought that was very important, and I talked about this on the Giant Overreaction, man. Like, he caught the last red zone touchdown, like for the show, the red zone. When they did the montage of the year,
that on Twitter,
or for the last one of the year, week 18, he literally caught the last touchdown of the 4 o'clock window, and that's Kenny Galladay's career right there. But this prompts me to ask you this question. I asked myself this question. I saw a lot of people talking about this one on Twitter. Kenny Galladay, on a scale, and you see, I gotta word these questions right so I can force you to answer them. On a scale of 0 to 10, because 0 is a possibility. I was going to say 1 to 10. I said, let me just put the 0 just in case. What are the chances Kenny Galladay will get more snaps in the playoffs, being that he caught this big touchdown here against the Philadelphia Eagles?
What's his snap ratio? Do you have any idea?
He's like 1 snap a game before this, if that. He was getting like 2 snaps a game. I mean, he's barely been on the field, bro.
Well, then
he was on the field when Richie James caught that nice little it was kind of like a fade route from the slot, kind of a bit of a combination of a wheel route, fade route from the slot, and Kenny Galladay kind of got tripped up, got in the way of the defender. I believe that was against I think it was either against the Minnesota Vikings, that first matchup, or it was against the Colts. I think it was the Vikings though, but he was in the way of that, and he only had like 1 or 2 snaps that game.
Well, it's hard to. I mean, if you're going 1 or 2 snaps a game, it's hard not to imagine that you at least get 3 or 4, maybe
Yeah,
5.
that's why I'm giving you that scale of 1 to 10. Will it jump up that big, or like will it be maybe increased by a little bit? For me,
So
I'm gonna say
I'd
this.
rate
I don't think he
5.
gets more snaps. I'm gonna say a 1. I don't think Kenny Galladay is gonna get snaps, man, because it's hard. I mean, Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton have been playing some really good football out there, man. And it's going to be hard to take those guys off the field. And I'm not talking about barring an injury from one of them. I'm talking like, actually getting some snaps and being implemented in the game plan. I'm going to say about a 1, maybe a 2, I'll say.
I would say 5. I'm going to meet like halfway, because like I said, if you're playing 1 to 2 snaps a game, maybe you play 3 to 4. Like maybe he's out there for those 1 or 2 snaps and he makes a play and they're like, okay, maybe this is playoff Kenny.
He was,
and then he
catches 2 receptions on 7 targets. It's his second best game probably as a New York Giant, possibly. Only one he scored. Yeah, his best game as a New York Giant.
Has he ever gone over 100 yards?
Against the Saints. He went for like 100, 110 or something like that on 7 receptions. And for me, if you go from 1 or 2 snaps to 3 or 4, that's in that 2 range.
That's a 2 range. Okay,
yeah, to me, that's like in that 2 range.
If
you jumped up and you were out there for 75% of the snaps, I'd say a 9, 8 or 9 maybe.
Yeah.
He played 100% of the snaps in this game.
I think I got to go 2 also then.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Brian Dable on the sidelines, chopping it up with them, hugging him, and, you could tell it was a good moment for him. I really wish they could find a way to bring back Kenny Galladay. I think it could work a certain way, but just not with this kind of a contract. We knew from Jump Street, man. I've been talking about this all the way back when he first signed, 2 years ago. The fact that he was getting paid the same money that you were paying Odell Beckham and you traded Odell Beckham was some of the most silliest shit I think that Dave Gettleman ever did in his whole tenure here. And people want to talk about the draft picks, about how Dave Gettleman, he had a couple of hits as far as the draft goes with guys like Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley and whatnot. But the contracts, and this is why I brought that up during that Washington segment, the contracts were god-awful. Dave Gettleman was just like, keep backloading the contracts. And we look at Leonard Williams now as another one. Like Leonard Williams, I mean, he's producing a little bit, but not to the capabilities of what that contract says, And I don't want to be counting people's pockets, but, man, we botched a ton of contracts. The James Bradbury contract is a reason why we had to let him go. Logan Ryan got an extension. Logan Ryan was one of the first players to get an extension after that 6-10 season when the New York Giants went 6-10 and almost made the playoffs. Just botching the whole situation as far as the salary cap goes. And now you got Joe Shane coming in, and he's got all these hurdles that he's got to jump over in his first year. So I got to commend Joe Shane, this year for doing a hell of a job finding guys like Isaiah Hodgins and, guys like Richie James coming out of nowhere and actually playing some decent football for us and stepping up and playing starting roles when we know that they're depth pieces. Finding a way to keep Darius Slayton on this roster and have him take a pay cut as well. There's so many things that were just wrong with the way the contracts were written by Dave Gettleman, and Kenny Galladay is probably the number 1 of them all. I forget what the cap hit is. Maybe somebody can tell me in the chat if you cut him before March what that cap hit's going to be, but I know it's a big number. You're going to lose a ton of money
Kenny
in this contract.
Galladay?
Yeah.
Let's see. Kenny Galladay cap hit 2023.
$21 million.
Yeah, 21.4
It's 14
million.
dead cap. Like, what do you do with that? Like, we'll see what happens, man. But, I was happy to see him get in the end zone. I thought that was amazing for him, and it would have been terrible to just be here for 2 years and not have 1 touchdown. Andrew Thomas has a receiving touchdown, for God's sakes. Kadarius Toney left the New York Giants, and he never had a touchdown with the Giants.
Those are those anomalies sometimes, Things just don't work out. And
I can't think of one like this. A lot of people are saying that this is the worst free agent signing in the history of NFL. I'm just like, I can't think of one like this where a wide receiver was like kind of in his prime, or a player's in his prime, and then he just like out of nowhere just completely fell off after he got a big bag like this. Maybe Albert Haynesworth for y'all. That was pretty bad too.
It was really bad, but I mean, that was more, it wasn't necessarily play as much as it was injury and just boneheadedness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because on the field he wasn't that good either. I do remember that. Because Albert Hainsworth came from New England, I believe, when y'all signed him. Tennessee.
He had a monster year.
Yeah, he had a monster year.
You see this more often in baseball and basketball than you do football.
Yeah. Yeah, guys just completely falling off after they get that money.
Yeah, but in football, you don't see it as much. I mean,
he went to the Patriots after y'all, and Hainsworth was kind of old. He had been in the season. He had been in the league for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 7 seasons with the Tennessee Titans and then signed that contract in his 8th year with the
You don't want to go down the road of bad contracts in Washington.
Oh, I do. I want to see which ones are near this.
There are so many.
I remember y'all had the wide receiver y'all gave $14 million to from Seattle.
Paul Richardson.
That was a bad one. You know,
I mean, don't forget the Fortune 500 Washington Redskins.
Who was the bad signing in that time?
The Fortune 500 Washington Redskins is when we spent all that money in the offseason to sign all those like borderline old dudes and spent a crap ton of money doing it, and they only finished 500. That's why they call them the Fortune 500 team.
Yeah, do you remember who the standout player was?
Archuleta, Deion Sanders.
Oh, Deion! I remember when Deion came.
There was another dude, but the Archuleta contract was insane. The Deion Sanders contract was insane. That was a really, really bad offseason.
Yeah, Kenny Galladay, I mean, it was $72 million for 4 years, man. To give you a little bit of a, something to weigh it up against, when we signed Brandon Marshall to a 2-year, $11 million deal. And he produced more than Kenny Galladay before he got hurt.
Man,
it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. But I really don't see him getting too many playoff snaps. I mean, if they find a role for him, do your thing. But even you could see when he's running the quick slants out there, man, he's getting beat by the defender. I know it was James Bradbury who probably has a little bit of know-how how to stop Kenny Galladay. He did play with him on the same team and practice against him for the whole entire season, so he probably knows all the nuances of his game. But Bradbury was beating him to the ball on a lot of these plays, man. Like it just didn't look good. And Chris Peace is showing us Nate Solder's contract right there, which Nate Solder was 4 years, $62 million. He sat out a year during the COVID season too, and really wasn't working out. He wasn't doing nothing football related at all, and he looked awful. But the thing is with Nate Solder, it's like we're just asking you to block and protect. At the time, the blind side of the quarterback. Then he ended up getting moved to right tackle a couple seasons later. With Kenny Galladay, man, it's like, yo, we need you to produce and get receptions. And I think he had like 500 yards the first year. And that was it. This year he's got 6 receptions.
Man, it's there's not really a lot like it, especially at the wide receiver position, just because it was number one money at that time.
Yeah,
like
they paid him to come in and be a wide receiver 1.
So it's pretty much the same contract that Christian Kirk got this offseason, right?
The Christian Kirk contract was backloaded, a certain way. They talked about how the number for Christian Kirk, it was a bit of smoke and mirrors because the way they designed his contract, it wasn't like this Kenny Galladay. The guaranteed money for Kenny Galladay was ridiculous. I would have I would have rather them just kept Odell Beckham, Like that, to me, that would have saved Daniel Jones the beginning of Daniel Jones' career. Eddie Nash says it was similar to the Chris Godwin contract. And Chris Godwin produces.
Yeah. I mean, he's over 1,000 yards, I'd imagine.
This year, I'm not too sure. Let me see. Chris Godwin, just over. Yep. 1,023 yards, 104 receptions, man. He quietly did that.
Man.
He's now got back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's got 3 1,000-yard seasons in his last 4.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's a stud guy.
He balls out. You got Mike Evans over there, so that helps. But
we signed Deion Sanders at the age of 32 after he was cut by the Cowboys. He signed a 7-year, $55 million contract.
Yeah, them contracts back in the day, they ain't got nothing on these contracts now. 7 years for 50, you said, or 55?
55 million.
Man, you can make that money back off endorsements with Deion. You set up the right couple of commercials for like, I was gonna say pizza bolies, but not.
Here we do.
What is the Paisano's Pizza?
Paisano's Pizza.
And what's the insurance? The car
Eastern
joint?
Motors, man.
Eastern Motors.
Listen,
yeah.
if y'all, for those of you that don't know, because I know a lot of you guys are not from this area and you guys are New York Giants fans, just take a second to look up Washington sports Eastern Motors commercials. Okay, they are the best things you'll ever watch. The best one, hands down. Whenever you finish watching us tonight, you go on YouTube and you type in Alex Ovechkin Eastern Motors.
Oh yeah, those are crazy.
It will blow your mind. But the crazy thing is Dion retired the next year.
Yeah, he had a bad season too. I remember it wasn't great here in Washington for him.
Jeff George.
Oh, what'd they give Jeff George?
4 years, $18.25 million.
At the time, that was a lot of money, but
yeah, and
man,
especially
I
because we
Jeff
had Brad
George
Johnson.
Yo, that man, Jeff George. Remember, like in the hip hop community, that jersey was going around real heavy. He was one of the only quarterbacks that wore that number 1 back in the day. It was like him and Warren Moon, and that was really it. So just because he wore number 1, you saw that jersey in a bunch of hip hop videos back in the day. Jeff George reminds me. I was talking to Sal about this in our group thread. He reminds me of like Boomer Esiason a little bit. Boomer had that couple of good years with Cincinnati where it was like, dang, Boomer's like a top 5 guy. And then he went to the Jets and wherever else he went, and it just never really panned out after that. I always thought Boomer Esiason was like a poor man's Dan Marino. He was like a poor man's Dan Marino. He had that arm.
Yeah. I mean, he went to Maryland, I believe. Boomer Esiason did. You want to know what's crazy? The Adam Archuleta one is crazy, bro. Okay, he became the highest paid safety in the NFL when we signed him. 6 years, $30 million in 2006. The worst part about it was
6 years. The contract was crazy back in the day.
And he was 30. He was like 30 something years old. We cut Ryan Clark.
Yeah.
To
that was at the end of Ryan Clark's career too, right?
No. This was at the beginning. After that, he went to Pittsburgh and balled out.
Yeah.
So we cut him. We cut Ryan Clark, signed Adam Archuleta to that deal. He had 60 tackles in 2006, and
Ryan Clark was drafted by the Giants. Wow, I didn't know that.
And he was out the league by 2008. Obviously, the worst was, the Albert Hainsworth was 7 years, $100 million.
Yeah. That was the biggest contract in NFL history at the time.
41 million guaranteed, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And only 53 tackles, 6.5 sacks.
Yeah, Bookend's talking about the Roquan deal from today, 5 years, 100 mil. I wouldn't have did that. I just wouldn't have did that.
I mean, he's a dog, man.
He's a dog, but I just wouldn't have did that.
How much of that is guaranteed, though?
Well, let's see.
That's the big question.
Let's see.
My tweet must be making
fully guaranteed. 60 million in total guarantees. So I guess if that's a lot of money.
Not that bad. That's 10 million guaranteed a year, give or take. More like 12 million guaranteed a year.
Yeah, 5-year deal, right?
Yeah, 12 years, 12 million guaranteed a year. It's not bad.
I wouldn't have did it. I definitely wouldn't have did it. That's just a crazy deal.
Who else? Somebody else got paid too. Damn. Somebody else just got paid, and it was like
Roquan had 2 sacks this year. He's never. I mean, he is a linebacker, so I mean he's in coverage a lot too. But he's never breached over 70 tackles or 5 sacks. That's a lot of money. He's in his. This was his 6th season. Yeah, that's a little much. Oh, maybe I'm wrong on the tackles. I'm wrong on that. Those were solo tackles. He has breached over 100 tackles a bunch of times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times he's breached over 100 tackles. So I was wrong on that.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's a good player. Bears traded him away this year, right? That was right before the deadline. Yeah, so he had 2 sacks for each team. He had 2.5 with the Bears, and he had 2 with the Ravens.
Did he miss some games? Good. Yeah.
I'm not sure if he missed games or not.
They got some players.
17 games.
They got some players for sure.
Yeah, the Ravens defense needs an overhaul though. Their secondary was not good this year.
Kyle Hamilton's he's a stud though.
He could be. He could be. I remember when I was thinking we should go get him with the 5th or the 7th pick, man. I was smoking some serious rocks back then.
That's really
crazy. 5th or 7th pick, man. He's a rookie. He's got time to grow, but he was not great this year.
He's going to be the best of everybody from this draft.
From this past draft?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You just being a homer. Where was
Go
he?
Irish.
He was still a first-round pick, right? Like in the teens or something like that.
Right before Washington, because
Yeah.
I remember I was like, "Here we go again, Notre Dame player gonna drop right past Washington." Well, I want man, I'm really gonna keep my eye on Michael Mayer though. It's gonna be interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah,
He is really good. And
Yeah,
I think
man,
there's a lot of teams
round,
that are looking for those tight ends now.
yeah.
Because you see it, man.
But if you look at the way that first-round tight ends have gone in like the past,
It
15 years,
beat them
not
fourth
good.
round tight ends, third round tight ends.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that really
is.
give it
tight
to
end
you.
there's not a lot of them. That's the thing. You realize that when Evan Ingram was named as a Pro Bowler in the NFC, there's not a lot of good tight ends. Robert Tonyan was in the mix with that, and so was Logan Thomas. It was going to be one of those three that was going to be the best tight end in the NFC that year. So there's not a lot of them, but also it just seems like when you waste a first-round draft pick on them, the productivity is just not there. I do think Kyle Pitts is going to be a guy. I mean, when you see Kyle Pitts on the field, he looks like a RoboCop out there or something.
Yeah.
Man. His body type is just so different. They got to find a way to utilize that kid the right way. And with the new quarterback that they drafted,
He looks
with,
good in this
Ritter,
last game.
he did, but I don't know if he's the answer. That's what I'll say. I don't know if he's the answer.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but I like they have a nice young offensive
They got a nice
core.
weapon core.
You know, with
they need a running back though.
Algier.
You need somebody to pair with him. You need him to be the Boston Scott to a Miles Sanders. But
Yeah.
Drake London can be a guy. He's been shut down in a couple of games, but he can be a guy. And Kyle Pitts is obviously a weapon over there for sure. I like what they're building. They can't take too long. I definitely like what they're building. I got one more question for you too, and this one we kind of talked about this one on the Giant overreaction a little bit with a couple of the overreactions I had. But what you think about this? Do you think the Giants resting their starters was the right decision? I give you my answer on it. I said we really won't know until we play the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean it's a push. It's if they go out there and they look bad, they're gonna say, "Oh, they shouldn't have rested the starters." If they go out there and look great, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's why you rest your starters." So it's gonna be a hindsight win, lose sort of situation. But I personally, I think it was the right decision.
I'm leaning more towards that too.
In their position, you're literally locked in, right? And you are Saquon Barkley is your offense. You're already down to wide receivers who are like 5th and 6th string wide receivers, and you've already seen there's not a lot of depth to your team. So I think it was super, and there's a lot of guys that are coming back from injuries already within the last couple of weeks and are banged up. So in this particular situation, I think it was a smart move. I mean, with lack of depth and injury riddled guys already, I think it was you guys kind of got lucky to already be locked in and not have any opportunity to move up or move down. I think it was a perfect position for a team to rest their starters. I think I answer this question on a case by case basis. In the Giants' case, I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, and when we were first talking about it on the preview show, I was like, maybe they go out there and they start the starters for a quarter or two, see how the game is going, and then you bring the backups in. But you couldn't have gained a better playoff position, so I think it's all good. I'm starting to lean more towards I think it was the right decision to rest them. We'll see how they come out of this, this bye technically here when we get to the playoffs, because I do remember earlier in the season when we did have our bye, I think we came out against the Houston Texans out of the bye. and it didn't look great, but I do think that this is a different style of offense right now. The short passing attack has definitely been clicking for the New York Giants as of late, and hopefully, we don't get to the playoffs and just put up a dud. I don't want to see this offense we saw from about the first 10 games of the season where it was like the Giants couldn't score more than 7 points in the first half. Going up against the Vikings, you got to go up there and at least put up 2 scores in that first half to have a chance, because we know how dangerous that offense is. And the one thing I was a little bit worried about as well is the Giants started off 7-2. Right? So in your first 9 games, you got 7 wins. In the last 8 games, you got 2.5 wins.
Yeah.
The momentum of this team in the back half was not good, you know, and you beat a Colts team that really wasn't a good team. You competed with the Vikings and you beat the Commanders, and really we could have beat you on that first matchup, and you allowed the Commanders to come out there and drive down the field in the last minutes of the game to tie that thing up. So I am worried about the momentum portion of the Giants right now, but I think, this is going to help the players get healthy, as healthy as we could possibly be, with Adoree Jackson hopefully coming back, and Xavier McKinney had just got back in the lineup.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys didn't have Adoree or McKinney in the first matchup with the Vikings.
Yeah, nope. And Xavier McKinney, he said he's going to be the difference.
That's going to be a big change.
Kind of made it seem like he's going to shut down Jefferson. He's like, that it's not going to fly with me out there. It's kind of what he was saying.
Man, playoffs.
It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing, man. I can't wait. I really cannot wait, man.
Lucky son of a gun.
Yep. 7-2, bro. That 7-2 got us where we needed to be. Because I went back today, man, and I checked a lot of receipts. I wanted to clean up my book.
It was fun watching you on Twitter
good, right?
today.
I was unraveling some receipts. Some people were trying
Looked like
to call
you was
me
getting
out
ready to
about
file
receipts.
your taxes.
Yeah,
you
that's
was
exactly
pulling
what
all
it
the
was.
receipts out.
Y'all can call me out on my receipts too. You got to go find them. Go ahead and find them. Somebody found a couple of them. Like, weren't you saying like Tyrod Taylor was a better option? Hey, we didn't get to see Tyrod Taylor too much, so we really don't know. But Daniel Jones played his ass off. He didn't give Tyrod Taylor a chance to get on that field. So for us, that works out really well. The Giants won a lot of games, 7-2 to start the year. I think that really got us. Speaking of like your dogs outside,
I heard
fighting,
it. I heard that one.
My cats are upstairs fighting. My girl's screaming at them. It's 2 fat asses, man. Those cats are so huge. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the Vikings matchup. I just don't let them blow us out. That's all I'm hoping for. Don't come out there and shoot yourself in the foot like you did in the first matchup. There were so many issues, man. The 3rd down drop from Richie James, the drop punt where the Scottish Hammer just fumbles the ball. I know it was raining in that game, but he just like straight fumbled the ball on that, man. The Daniel Jones interception. I want to see the best game plan I've seen from Mike Kafka all year. And this defense is what's going to really keep us in this, man. So I got faith. And I trust Wink Martindale. I think he's going to have this team in the right position, but we'll see how things go on this Thursday preview show. I was going to try to do like some roundtable vibes tomorrow, man, but I got booked for a gig. Shout out to my homie Kier, man. He's doing a commercial slot for Wawa, and they want me to come out there and film that, so I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. But who knows, maybe late night I'll do like a radio type of vibe or just something, maybe a Q&A or something, because I do want to go live every day leading up to the playoffs. I think it's important. The New York Giants, this could be our last stretch here, man. So I definitely want to try to give y'all as much content as we possibly can and weigh in everybody's opinions in the chat and just see how this New York Giants team performs. Sunday is going to be a nerve-wracking day.
Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday.
I wanted the Monday night slot. I really did. I wanted that Monday spot, man. And the Dallas Cowboys and the Bucs. I'm kind of
surprised that they put that game in Monday night. I guess Tom Brady.
Is there a formula of how they pick that? Like,
no, that's all what they think is going to get the best ratings.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to a lot of the matchups, man. The Chargers, speaking of teams who didn't rest their starters, the Chargers didn't rest all their starters, and I heard they had an injury to Mike Williams and why is his name slipping my mind right now? The edge rusher.
Bosa?
Bosa.
Bosa?
Is it Bosa? I heard he got hurt.
He just got back.
Yeah, I heard he like something happened with him. But Mike Williams being the more pivotal injury that's looking like he might not play. And I'm glad that didn't happen to us, because now they're making things tougher on their young quarterback, man. Justin Herbert's going to have a lot to do there. You saw Austin Eckler had a fumble in that game too, man. They really didn't look that great in that game. I only got to keep my eyes on it for a little bit, but that's going to be an interesting matchup against the Jaguars. I'm looking forward to that one too, man. And what is the schedule again? I think I have it here.
The Jaguars mollywopped the Chargers when they played earlier this year.
Yeah, so this is the The games are going to be, the Saturday games are San Francisco versus the Seattle Seahawks, which a lot of people are sleeping on the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, if they could get their stuff together, they could really give the 49ers a good run for their money.
That line moved since we talked about it earlier.
It did, huh? What did it move to?
It's up to 10 now.
It's up to 10, huh? Brock Purdy been playing some good football. So, I mean, they're not looking at the quarterback position with a backup as a drop-off. And then that game's going to be at 4:35. And then you got the Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8:15 on NBC. That's going to be the night game. Sunday, which to me, this might have been the better game to maybe put on Monday night, is the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills at 1 o'clock on CBS. Then the Giants are going to take on the Vikings at 4:40. And then you got the night game, which I hope Lamar Jackson can make it back for. The Baltimore Ravens will be taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And then you got the Monday night game. It's crazy. That's it. Those are all the teams that are left. And then you got the 2 byes for the number 1 seeds, and that's it. So Philadelphia and the Kansas City Chiefs get the bye. And this is it. That's all you got. It really looks like there should be more teams. You know, it really looks like it. And let me show you all this graphic that I'm looking at right here one time, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, where's the rest of it? Like, this is it. That's it.
That's it. Who's the biggest, the two, I mean, I guess it's obvious, the 2 biggest surprises?
The Jaguars.
Yeah.
And then in the NFC, I'd say
Seahawks.
I don't think the Seahawks were a surprise, like, because they played so well and they kind of just started to. You remember when we were like predicting we had the last 3 games? I thought the Seahawks were going to be the team that would have the 6th seed kind of locked up.
You did.
Had the easier route. Remember they had the Rams the last game of the season. We were looking at it like, oh, but they did have the Jets and the Chiefs as well on their schedule as well. I thought they were going to get that 6th seed, man. And I in my heart, I really thought the Giants were going to be on the outside looking in. I thought Washington had an advantage, and it's just interesting. So, I
can't believe the Packers lost to the Lions.
And especially when they had that lead, they just didn't capitalize on that, man. You got to win games like that. But the Giants have the longest odds to win the Super Bowl, plus 6,000.
You should totally put a bet on that.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, you know what? I can't wait for Saturday and Sunday. Over-unders.
Yeah, we got to talk about that too, man. We content-wise, we got to chop it up and, get stuff in line here. But shout out to everybody, man, that tuned in today, man. This was a good vibe. I thought it was going to be kind of a stale show with the way y'all season kind of came to an end, even though it was a win, not going to the playoffs. And with the way that the New York Giants, just this another bye CBA team out there on the field, it just, bit lackluster. But shout out to Kenny Galladay nonetheless, man. He got a touchdown, whether it be the backups or not. I thought that was amazing. And the Commanders, man, with a big victory. A big victory over the Dallas Cowboys, man. And shout out to all the people in the chat, man, that showed up, man. This is that's it. That's 18 weeks of football right there. Previews, recaps, giant overreactions, parlays, 18 straight weeks, 4 shows. I think we missed 1 giant overreaction. We didn't miss any other shows the whole entire season.
Yeah, we had a couple weeks ago, we had something come up and we missed that.
Oh, that was the Tuesday. Yeah. That was the Tuesday. So did I miss any giant overreactions then?
I think it was after the game that we went to, because we were so beat from that game.
Oh, yeah. So 2 shows we missed. Out of the 18 weeks, we missed 2 shows. We had the giant overreaction, which I didn't miss it. Remember, I made up for it. I went live the morning of Tuesday.
You did.
So we missed 1 show all year long.
That was a rain delay.
It was a rain delay, exactly. We had a little bit of a postponement there. But big shout out to the Beard, man, for the commitment to, putting out this content with me, man. It's definitely been a fire season, man. And I'm ecstatic about the playoffs. Big shout out to everybody, all the fam in the chat, man, that's been rocking with us this whole 18 weeks. This has been major, man. So big shout out to y'all for supporting what we do over here and helping us raise the bar that we try to raise over here weekly. And going into next season is going to be amazing. I cannot wait for this offseason. Another big pivotal reason why I can't wait for this offseason is to do the revamp. For those of y'all that have been following us since season 1, you've got to see the transitions of how we've upgraded this channel. We started off doing a bunch of just pre-recorded content. Every show was pre-recorded in 2019. And then we came back season 2. We did the lives. We had Scotty. Shout out to Scotty one time. Mike Simone's getting married June 4th. We got to go out there and go party with them. So big congrats to my man Mike Simone.
That's our 1-year anniversary. He texted it to me. I was like, that's the same day Josie and I got married last year.
Oh yeah, on the 4th. Yep, that's gonna be interesting. Definitely a shout out to Mike Simone one time and congrats on that, man. But the maturation of this channel it's gone a little left, a little right, but it's always gone up, man. So big shout out to the Beard one time and a big shout out to y'all, man. Y'all know how we end every show over here on Awthentik and The Beard, man. Y'all keep raising that bar. Y'all keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Big shout out to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack, one time in the building. And big shout out to the fam, y'all. We couldn't do this without y'all. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night here. Apex Legends got a new update I'm about to drop in. Get my little first-person shooter on one time. But big shout out to all of y'all, man. We appreciate y'all. Y'all be good and enjoy the rest of the content we're going to deliver to y'all for the rest of the season. It's going to be fire, man. I cannot wait. So keep your eyes peeled for what we got coming for the next couple of days until we get to the playoffs on Sunday, man. Best of luck to our Giants, man. And best of luck to the Commanders in the offseason. Y'all be good, man. Catch y'all later. Peace.